Take Nezuko all the way to Mount Kyogiri. The more you go up, the more you can feel the air in the air is getting thinner. He is fine, but Nezuko seems to be not doing well. Breathing is also a little short. Can it work? Sumiyu asked. It works. Nezuko clenched his small fists and insisted, but seeing the girl panting heavily, Sumiyu couldn't help but shook his head. She was such a stubborn girl, she was obviously exhausted. Before Nezuko agreed, Sumiyu reached out and grabbed Nezuko's little hand. Nezuko was slightly taken aback, and immediately, he felt a force in his little hand. Then, the whole person felt as if he was flying. The sudden loss of center of gravity in hands and feet made Nezuko feel flustered instinctively, until her small body landed on his shoulders. Don't move. Pulling Nezuko onto his back, feeling Nezuko's restlessness, Sumiyu spoke hastily. Nezuko hesitated for a while, and finally quietly lay on Suemyu's back. Sumiyu stepped on the ground with light steps. There is no need to worry about whether Nezuko can keep up, he can naturally move without any scruples. Like a flying bird passing through the mountains and forests, the raised black hair fell on Nezuko's little nose, making Nezuko sneezed involuntarily. Nezuko's eyes were shining brightly as he looked at the receding scenery around him with ruby-like pupils. Can feel the speed of Mr. Really very fast. Is this the strength of the pillar? It turns out that Mr. has been waiting for her while controlling his steps. Nezuko murmured slightly. Soon, ahead, a thatched hut built on the mountainside appeared in front of my eyes. Under the dark moonlight, a smear of candlelight dispelled the surrounding darkness. Sumiyu is very familiar with this place. When he came to Shawu Mountain, he lived here. If predictions are good, Kamado Tanjiro may be placed here. The figure fell lightly, landed on a tree branch, and looked down. A boy with red hair, red eyes, and a scar on his left forehead is practicing hard. The boy was so persistent, he swung his sword over and over again. On the opposite side is a boy with folded arms, wearing a disaster-repelling fox mask, a yellow, orange and green tortoise shell pattern intertwined haori, and a boy with flesh-colored mid-length hair. It was the wrong rabbit. In addition to Jingtu, there is also Tomioka Giyu, and Tomioka Giyu's sister, Tomioka Atsuko. And, of course, there's Mikomo, a bored, unhappy teenage girl. And with the appearance of Sumiyu here, it quickly attracted everyone's attention. The first one to discover was Mikomo. When she saw Sumiyu for the first time, the girl's eyes were full of joy, and she couldn't help but tried to run over, but she seemed to think of something all of a sudden, and stopped abruptly. He stopped his pace, bit his lip, and looked complicated. Sir. Tomioka Giyu also discovered Sumiyu, and couldn't help shouting in surprise. With the voice of Tomioka Giyu, Tanjiro, who was practicing hard, also quickly discovered Sumiyu. At the same time, he also noticed the younger sister who was being carried by Sumiyu. Nezuko, seeing his sister, Tanjiro shouted excitedly. Oni sauce. Nezuko also shouted happily. Sumiyu also put Nezuko down at the right time. Walking briskly, the pair of big brother sisters quickly gathered together, and it was obvious that their brother and sister had a very good relationship. Why is Nezuko here? Tanjiro looked at his sister strangely. I heard that my husband is going to Mount Kyogiri, and my big brother is in Mount Kyogiri, so please send me here. Nezuko was a little embarrassed. It's really troublesome, sir. I'm just on my way. Sumiyu smiled indifferently, and his eyes fell on Genya. This is the purpose of his trip to Shawu Mountain this time. Mikomo also looked at him, his black and white eyes full of resentment. Although the expression on her face was hidden by the fox mask, she could still feel the girl's nervousness through her slightly trembling, delicate body. Neither of them spoke, and the people around seemed to feel something was wrong with the environment, and couldn't help but hold their breath. Sumiyu took a deep breath and opened the silence first. Mikomo, I'm sorry I'm late. There was almost no hesitation, and the first step was to choose sorry. Originally, I had chosen not to talk to Sumiyu anymore, but when Suemyu's voice came, my heart trembled. All the complaints in my heart were swept away at once. For Mikomo, it is really hard to listen to the words of the big villain, and it is always easy to immerse himself in the gentle words of the big villain. Tomioka Giyu, Tomioka Atsuko, Nezuko, Tanjiro, and the rabbit all felt something was wrong, so they left without realizing it, leaving a space for the two of them to be alone. When there were only two people around, the environment became silent. Without anyone else, Sumiyu walked up to Mikomo cheekily without any hesitation, and immediately hugged Mikomo. Mikomo struggled a little at first, but Sumiyu hugged her so hard that she couldn't break free at all, and she couldn't break free at all. Only I still feel wronged in my heart. You. How did you come here? Mikomo was full of complaints. Tears almost filled the eyes, and after a while, the pear blossoms were already raining. Feeling the moisture in his chest, he breathed a sigh of relief. Just cry out. No matter how much grievance you have suffered in your heart, as long as you cry out, you can always get great relief. Sorry. Su-mu doesn't explain his mistakes. But deep down, he also blamed himself. No matter Mikomo or Kochu Shinobu, they are good girls, since they choose to take the path of greed, they will inevitably hurt Mikomo. For this, he felt uncomfortable. It's been so long since I came here, I thought you won't come anymore, don't want Mikomo anymore. Mikomo gritted his teeth, looking aggrieved. At the beginning, I just left in anger, but after I came back, I regretted it a little. Originally, I hoped that Su-mu would come to pick her up soon, but after waiting for several days, I didn't see Su-mu's figure. As a result, my heart began to become panicky. Did I really do something wrong? Is it that I am too generous? Is it because I am too girlish? After all, in this world, a man can marry several wives. It is normal for a boy as good as Mu Zhong to have several wives. Feeling Mikomo's dependence on her, Su-mu's heart is also slightly heavy. Unknowingly, she has occupied such an important position in Mikomo's heart. Can't help it. His hand holding Mikomo was getting stronger and stronger. For a good girl like Mikomo, he will not let go. Water pillar, Yorokodaki Sakanji was very resentful towards Su-mu. After all, when he left the Kochu house, he entrusted Su-mu to take good care of Mikomo. Result: not long after he returned to Shawu Mountain, Mikomo came back in anger. Master. Don't be angry with Mu. Actually, Mu didn't make too many mistakes. Looking at the master who was looking at Mu with a cold face, Mikomo said good things for Mu Zhong. Yorokodaki Sakanji looked at Mikomo helplessly. He is a disciple. He is really getting more and more outgoing. When he came back, he hated this guy to death. All grievances are completely forgotten. I can't be more stupid. Sure enough, the girl who got married, the water that was thrown out. Although Mikomo is not his daughter, in the heart of Water Pillar, Yorokodaki Sakanji, Mikomo has long been regarded as his daughter. Forget it this time. Next time, if you find you bullying my disciple again, I, Yorokodaki Sakanji, will never forgive you. Yorokodaki Sakanji grimaced, faced with warning. Su-mu smiled awkwardly and hurriedly promised. After Mikomo's incident was revealed, what the two of them chatted about was nothing more than the current world. In today's world, there is a constant influx of technology from the outside and various problems inside. But these don't have much to do with the ghost killing squad. Of course, the most important things are related to ghosts. Since Su-mu beheaded 12 Kazuki, Kami no 2, and Ice Ghost Doma last time, the Demon Slayer team, which has been at a disadvantage for thousands of years, finally started to unfold. Perhaps, stimulated by Su-mu, the pillars of the ghost killing team also took the initiative one after another. First of all, the first move was the Pillar of Wind, Shinazugawa Sanemi, who recently found 12 Kazuki, Mukago, and killed him in the end. Then there was Rengoku Mojiro, the former Yenju, and Rengoku Kyojuru, the current Yenju. The two found one of the last strings in 12 Kazuki, Enmu, the ghost of sleep, on the infinite train, and they worked together to kill him. The magic dream of one of the lower strings, who should have been defeated by Tanjiro after cutting off the spine with the god of fire Kagura, Biluoten, died in the joint efforts of Rengoku Mojiro and Rengoku Kyojuru Superior. The first of the lower string, Enmu, the fourth of the lower string, Mukago was killed successively, plus the times of the lower string that Su-mu beheaded before, and the golden gun of the lower string. So far, 5 of 12 Kazuki have died. According to Yorokodaki Sakanji, the traces of the third string, Wikiraba, and the second string, Rokuro have been found recently, and now, the ghost killing team has already gone there. Maybe, it won't be long before the news of Rokuro's beheading will come. After all, the pillar of the demon killing team may not be as strong as the upper string in 12 Kazuki, but it is not difficult to deal with the lower string. Well, predictably so. It won't be long before 12 Kazuki's end of strings will all be cleared. In the original anime, these under strings were summoned to Infinity City by Nakime because of the beheading of 5 of lower strings' lei. 12 Kazuki only needs to leave the upper string, so Kibutsuji Muzan cleared all the lower string, and took back the blood that was given, leaving only the dream of the lower string. But now, things have obviously changed, and almost all of these lower strings were killed instead of being purged by Kibutsuji Muzan. Not only did almost all of the under strings die, even the Shang Xian no 2 feet Ice Ghost Doma was beheaded. It can be said that Muzan has encountered the most serious crisis in history. With Kibutsuji Muzan's cautious character, after sensing the crisis, he naturally started further lurking. Information about Kibutsuji Muzan's whereabouts has been lost to the investigation. It can be said that the situation has once again reached a stalemate. At this moment, Yinmu and Jinchi are talking about this issue. Although the ghost killing team has achieved unprecedented results in the process of slaying ghosts, but also, up to now, they have encountered a deadlock. Kibutsuji Muzan disappeared, and other, winding strings, also got the news to hide. Without beheading Kibutsuji Muzan, the source of the ghosts, it will never be considered a success for the ghost slaying team. But if you want to deal with Kibutsuji Muzan, you need to find Kibutsuji Muzan. But it is obviously not so easy to find Kibutsuji Muzan. Kibutsuji Muzan's cautious and timid character makes it very difficult to find his traces. Coupled with the feature that he can change his body shape, it is impossible to find Kibutsuji Muzan in the vast crowd. As long as Kibutsuji Muzan does not show up for a day, then Kibutsuji Muzan cannot be killed for a day. 1 year, 2 years is fine. But what if in the past 10 years or 100 years? This is also Yorokodaki Sakonji's worry about the future. No one knows whether the demon killing team will maintain a strong lineup like it is now. It has to be said that Yorokodaki Sakonji's worries are not unreasonable. Ghosts have a long life and can hide in the dark and wait slowly, but humans are different. After 100 years, they will be turned into Lois. Senior Lin Taki doesn't need to worry too much. In the past, this was naturally a difficult issue to consider, but now, it is unnecessary. Su Mu answered flatly. Yorokodaki Sakonji was slightly taken aback. Did Senior Lin Taki ignore my existence? Su Mu stood up and spoke with a smile. Looking up and looking at Su Mu, Yorokodaki Sakonji seemed to think of something all of a sudden. He couldn't help laughing, and his frown couldn't help but relax. Before, he was always worried that even if the ghost-killing squad temporarily suppressed the ghosts, as long as Kibutsuji Muzan was not killed, the problem would not be cured. One day, the ghost-slaying squad would slowly come to an end. After all, in this world there is no dynasty that is always strong, and similarly, there is no organization that is always strong, and the ghost-killing squad is no exception. But Kibutsuji Muzan is different, he has a nearly infinite life. After the ghost-killing squad ends, no one in this world can stop its pace. But now, he saw Su Mu in front of him, but there is hope. Su Mu is also a ghost. Like Kibutsuji Muzan, he also has an infinite life. So as long as Su Mu is still there is no need to think about these. Not to mention, Su Mu looked up and looked out the window. As time goes on, Kibutsuji Muzan will be more and more at a disadvantage. Right now, he's still weaker than Kibutsuji Muzan, but with time, he'll catch up and surpass Kibutsuji Muzan. Moreover, this time will not be too far away. Looking at the confident Su Mu, Waterpillar, Yorokodaki Sakonji has complicated eyes. From the first time he met Su Mu to the present, the improvement of Su Mu's strength is almost obvious to all. Yorokodaki Sakonji has no doubts that Su Mu can surpass Kibutsuji Muzan. The only concern is if Kibutsuji Muzan dies, there will be only Su Mu in this world. Will he also become a ghost like Kibutsuji Muzan? But soon, Yorokodaki Sakonji got rid of this worry. Although the time we spent together was short, something could still be felt. Compared with ghosts, the ghost Su Mu is obviously more like a person. Walking in the dark, but the heart is always bright. This is probably the case. Thinking about this, the worries in my heart were also swept away. So, too. Yorokodaki Sakonji stood up, bowing slightly. Su Mu accepted Yorokodaki Sakonji's bow frankly. He naturally understood what Su Mu meant. If Kibutsuji Muzan couldn't avoid it, Su Mu might be the only one who could consume energy. If it is Kibutsuji Muzan, it is really hidden for thousands of years. After those 1,000 years, maybe only the ghost Su Mu can deal with him. Time passed slowly. In a blink of an eye. 3 years have passed. During this period, Wakiraba and Rokuro of the third of the lower string, and the second of the lower string, were also successively found by the Demon Slayer squad and killed by the Demon Slayer squad. Since then, the last string of 12 Kazuki created by Muzan has been wiped out. Up to now, 12 Kazuki only exists Winding 1, Ghost of the Sword, Kokoshibu. Winding 3, Fighting Ghost, Akaza Hantengu, Ghost of Doppelganger. Winding Up, Ghost of the City, Nakime Winding Wu, Pot Ghost, Gyoko. The Land of the Former String, the Ghost of the Twins, Gyutaro. The Land of the Former String, the Ghost of the Twins, Daki. The Winding Land, Thunder Ghost Paints Hill. Kaigaku, the newly appointed Land of the Wind, Thunder Ghost, was once the eldest disciple of the former Naruto, Kuwajima Jigoru, and once participated in the test of Mount Tang with Mikomo, becoming a member of the ghost killing team. Just like the historical trajectory of the development. Encountered Winding Black Death during a mission. As a result, It goes without saying that all of Kaigaku's team were beheaded by Kokoshibu. When Kokoshibu was about to attack Kaigaku, Kaigaku abandoned the will of the Demon Slayer team and chose to beg for mercy. Eventually, was forced to become a ghost by Kokoshibu. Kaigaku, who became a ghost, relied on what he knew about the Demon Slayer squad when he became a Demon Slayer squad, led the ghosts, and attacked the Demon Slayer squad several times, causing great losses to the Ghost Slayer squad. Therefore, Kaigaku was also appreciated by Kibutsuji Muzan, and together with Gyutaro, Daki, became 12 Kazuki's Winding Land. Although there are traitors like Kaigaku in the Ghost Slayer squad, the development of the Ghost Slayer squad has been extremely rapid in the past few years. Relying on the development of Wisteria Toxin and strong strength against ghosts, Kochu Shinobu became a new pillar, or worm pillar. Please Rabbit, the big disciple of Yorokodaki Sakanji, the water column, relied on his achievements in killing ghosts, took over the position of the pillar of his master Yorokodaki Sakanji, and became a new water column. As for Tomioka Giyu, because the brother invited the rabbit, he did not become a water column, like in history, but even so, Tomioka Giyu's strength is no less than the column. As for Makomo, he has seldom participated in the activities of the ghost-killing team these years. Since he reconciled with Sumiyu, he has devoted himself to taking care of Sumiyu. The merits, therefore, did not become pillars. In addition to 2 more pillars, in the past 2 years, the ghost-killing team has also produced extremely superior fresh blood. The most famous is Kamado Tanjiro Kamado Nezuko. Agatsuma Zenitsu Hashibira Inosuke and Shinazugawa Genya, younger brother of Wind Pillar. These few can be regarded as the most outstanding talents that have emerged recently in the ghost-killing team, and they have always been at the forefront in the process of fighting against ghosts. He killed many evil spirits successively. He even beheaded Kyogai, the former land of the lower string, Kyogai, the ghost of the drum. Vine Attack Mountain Top Sumiyu sat quietly on a rock. Standing on the left and right are 2 slim girls with swords across their waists. Wearing a cute fox mask is Makomo, wearing a kochu beret in her hair is Tsuyuri Kanao. Lord, please Mu-chan to give Tanjiro and the others a week-long trial. Makomo tilted his head and whispered to Sumiyu. Sumiyu nodded, stretched, stood up, and looked into the distance. It's already here. A pair of harmonious figures. The first to come were sisters Kamado Tanjiro and Kamado Nezuko. Tanjiro didn't pay much attention to him. The little girl Nezuko is getting cuter and juicier the longer she grows. Compared with her fiancé, Tsuyuri Kanao, she is no different. He really likes her more and more. Hi sir. Hi sir. Tanjiro and Nezuko shouted successively. Sumiyu nodded, looked at Nezuko for a while, and saw that Nezuko's face flushed slightly, and then looked away, looking forward. Why should I accept the guidance of the ghost pillar? I heard that it is a very scary ghost. It's so scary, will it eat me? It's so scary, so scary. A boy with round eyebrows wearing a yellow feather with a triangular pattern and short blonde hair was walking while looking around vigilantly, as if he was afraid that a ghost would come out of the vicinity. It's Agatsuma Zenitsu. He also came to receive guidance from Mr. Seeing Agatsuma Zenitsu approaching, Tanjiro couldn't help being a little happy. Agatsuma Zenitsu also quickly found Tanjiro and Nezuko standing next to Sumiyu, and couldn't help getting excited, but was about to speed up when a loud roar came from behind. But it was a tall and burly young man wearing a gray boar's head mask, deer fur around his waist, bear fur around his feet, naked from the upper body, only wearing the team pants of the Ghost Slayer squad on his lower body, running on a rampage. Pigs advance by leaps and bounds, pigs advance by leaps and bounds. Seeing the rushing man, Agatsuma Zenitsu's face turned livid, and he hurriedly dodged to the side. It's Hashibira Inosuke. Looking at the rushing people, Tanjiro couldn't help but said happily. In addition to Hashibira Inosuke, a boy with a dark coxcomb hair and a scar on the left side of his face that extended to his nose walked over with a gloomy expression. Damn it. I heard that it was this ghost pillar that made the big brother bow down to him 3 times and 9 times, losing face. I must give that ghost pillar a good look. It was Shinazugawa Genya, the younger brother of Shinazugawa Sanemi, the pillar of wind. It's all here, much faster than expected. Sumiyu clapped his palms. Then, the trial training has begun. Looking at the few people who came, Sumiyu laughed unconsciously. This character who used to be the main character of Demon Slayer, now, has to be trained in his own hands. Feel pretty fun corpse. Then, the trial training has begun. Sumiyu looked at the 5 people in front of him, clapped his hands and laughed. However, before the words were finished, they were interrupted. Hashibira Inosuke drew out his own blade directly, and his blade was very peculiar, with a jagged shape. Duel, duel, duel. Hashabira Inosuke held the knife and yelled directly at Sumyu. With his beast-like intuition, he can clearly feel the power of Sumyu. Duel. Roar. Like a beast, Hashabira Inosuke slammed one foot to the ground, forcing the ground out of a pothole. With a powerful rebound force, Hashabira Inosuke rammed towards Sumyu like a rampaging tank. This guy. Watching Hashabira Inosuke attack, directly made Tanjiro sweat for his partner. Lord Ghost Pillar did not offend like that. Sure enough, as Tanjiro expected, Hashabira Inosuke went and returned quickly. Without seeing how Sumyu made a move, Hashabira Inosuke was thrown out directly. Shaking his head, Hashabira Inosuke stood up from the ground. Just now, he didn't see how Sumyu made a shot at all, and he was already sent flying. Powerful, incomparably powerful. This makes Hashabira Inosuke's blood seem to be burning. Only such a powerful enemy can make me feel excited. Sumyu's eyes drooped, looking at Hashabira Inosuke, who was not afraid, but more excited, and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Sure enough, he had the same character as in the anime, like a beast. I can't see the opponent's movements at all. Such a terrible enemy, I can't be the opponent at all. Shinazugawa Genya couldn't help clenching his fists. It's terrible, it's terrible. Seeing this scene, Agatsuma Zenitsu turned pale. Sir, it's really amazing. I'm going to work hard. Nezuko couldn't help but clench his small fists, cheering for himself. Hashabira Inosuke's body recovered quickly. Just after recovering, he immediately rushed towards Sumyu holding the Nichiren blades. Pigs rush forward. The pig leapt forward. With such a roar, the whole person is like a wild beast. But the result was the same as before. Hashabira Inosuke barely saw Sumyu's movements clearly, and was shot flying by Sumyu directly. This time Sumyu shot obviously a lot harder, and Hashabira Inosuke spit out blood from the corner of his mouth, and the injuries all over his body made him unable to get up in a short time. After a brief moment of silence, Sumyu also looked back at the crowd. Several of you, in the next 7 days, you will conduct a 7-day devil trial here. I hope you can spend these 7 days well. Sumyu smiled. Under the conscious pace, Tanjiro, Nezuko, Agatsuma Zenitsu, Hashabira Inosuke and Shinazugawa Genya couldn't help but feel nervous. But at this time, Wanwaluo Chanaping stood up. The first thing you have to do is to work together and defeat me first. Suyuri Kanao looked at several people with a flat expression. Wearing the uniform of the Ghost Slayer squad, the lower body is a knee-length black pleated skirt and white boots, and the girl's hair is blowing with the breeze. The girl's hair is already very long, and the distance from the long hair to the waist is not far away. Tanjiro was slightly taken aback, looking at Kanao, who was almost the same age as him, feeling incredible. One of the 5 of us hit her. Shinazugawa Genya pointed at Kanao, feeling incredible. Suyuri Kanao looks back at Sumyu. Kanao, don't hold back too much. Sumyu nodded to Kanao, then stood aside with folded arms. Pigs rushed forward. The first strike was still Hashabira Inosuke, who wielded Nichiren blades and launched an almost brute force attack towards Kanao. But it was easily dodged by Kanao. At the same time, the Nichiren blades in his hand waved slightly, and the blade was already attached to Hashabira Inosuke's neck. If we are enemies, you are already dead. The girl answered flatly. So strong. Even with the instinct of a beast, Hashabira Inosuke can feel the power of Kanao, but compared to the feeling of powerlessness in the face of the Ghost Pillar, at least the person in front of him is not invincible. Water Breath A1 Shape. Water Surface Slash. Breath of Lava Section 1 Shape. The Trembling of First Love. At this moment, Tanjiro and Nezuko, brothers and sisters, shot at the same time almost in agreement. However, before the 2 attacks landed on Kanao, Ping flew away like a fluttering kochu. Thunder Breath A1 Shape. A flash of thunder. A slight sound came out, but Agatsuma Zenitsu's waist was slightly bent, his hand was pressed on the hilt of his waist, and the corner of his mouth made a slight sound. The next moment, his figure was like thunder that tore through the air, and he drew his sword and slashed towards Kanao at a speed that even ghosts couldn't see clearly. This time, Kanao couldn't escape, but for Kanao, it was just a slight smile. Breath of Flowers. The blade hanging from his waist was pulled out, but it easily blocked Agatsuma Zenitsu's thunderbolt flash. Standing on the rock, Sumyu quietly looked at the several people who were constantly moving around in the field, and nodded slightly. Kanao is improving very fast. Makomo next to him looked at Kanao, who was fighting 5 people with 1 man, and couldn't help admiring. Yeah, Kanao is improving really fast. Sumyu couldn't help but sigh. Originally, he was also the main character in the anime Demon Slayer. Now, Kanao's strength has surpassed the original by a lot. It has gone far beyond Tanjiro, Agatsuma Zenitsu, Hashibira Inosuke too much. Time passed slowly, with the constant fighting. The cooperation of Agatsuma Zenitsu, Tanjiro, Nezuko, Hashibira Inosuke, and Shinazugawa Genya is becoming more and more tacit. Finally, on the 6th day, he successfully defeated Kanao with Yi. Who. Following the defeat of Tsuyuri Kanawa, Manhahiro and the others also sat up without any image. It's really hard to imagine that Kanao, who is almost the same age as them, is so powerful. But at this time, Mikomo clapped his hands. Next, it's me. Wearing a cute fox mask, the girl squinted slightly and looked at the 5 people. Isn't it, sir? Tanjiro couldn't help asking. You have to be able to pass me, Mikomo smiled. Maybe, in these 7 days, you won't be able to let Mu Zhong do it yourself. Mikomo smiled. Tanjiro and others were obviously unconvinced. After a short rest, the 5 people looked at each other, and they had a certain tacit understanding in each other's hearts and challenged Mikomo. Dawn broke through the darkness and brought light to the earth. A new day begins, and the devil time of the 5 Tanjiro and the 7 days ended soon. The red-haired boy, the pig-headed boy, the blonde boy, Nezuko, and Shinazugawa Genya were all lying on the ground panting. At the end of the trial training, the 5 of them worked together and still failed to defeat Mikomo. But at the same time, Mikomo is not easy, standing in front of Sumiu, panting. Although the 5 boys in front of her are much weaker than her, they give her a very strong pressure. In the beginning, she could easily defeat the 5 of them again and again, but slowly, she waited for the 5 to cooperate. Everything will be different. Even though they are obviously slower than her and weaker than her in strength, they can always exert quite a powerful force when combined. However, simply, in the past 3 years, under the training of Sumiu, she has improved far beyond imagination. Maybe, now, even her master, Water Pillar, Yorokodaki Sakanji is no longer her opponent. Only then did 5 people be suppressed. However, if these 5 people were given some more time, Mikomo felt that he might not be the opponent of these people. Hoo. Panting, Tanjiro clenched his fists unconsciously, his eyes filled with disappointment. 7 days are over. None of the 5 of them passed the final trial training. Not only did they fail to defeat Mikomo, they even had no chance to make a move to Mr. Shang. They are so useless. They are too weak. With their heads down, all 5 of them were very frustrated. Sumiu stood up and looked at the 5 people who looked very depressed. He didn't comfort them. For Tanjiro and the others, because, with his participation, the 5 people had a smooth journey along the way, it was inevitable that they would feel a little nervous. Proud, thinking that dealing with ghosts is nothing more than that. But fighting, you can't always fight in your own favorable terrain. Just like the ghost killing team, they have been fighting in the dark night that is beneficial to ghosts. They are all human beings with flesh and blood. The injured cannot be recovered, and the lost siblings cannot be restored. But the ghost killing team has always been like this, has been sacrificing, but has been guarding until now. Even if Kibutsuji Muzan is so powerful, the ghost killing team has been guarding until now. Sorry, sir, we lost. Tanjiro walked up to Sumiu with his head down, although he was very unwilling, but it was the truth. Sumiu's golden eyes stared at Tanjiro. The red-haired boy was clenching his teeth, obviously unwilling. Like him, Hashibira Inosuke, Shinazugawa Genya, Agatsuma Zenitsu, and even the gentle Nezuko clenched their little fists at the moment. Desperate to the end, still failed to pass. They are really too weak. Sumiu shook his head, looked at the 5 people, and smiled. Congratulations, you passed. Tanjiro, Nezuko, Hashibira Inosuke, Agatsuma Zenitsu, and Shinazugawa Genya all raised their heads in bewilderment. They didn't even have a chance to shoot Sumiu, and they couldn't even beat Mikomo, so they didn't pass the trial training. Don't comfort us, sir. Tanjiro smiled wryly. I didn't comfort you. Sumiu shook her head. Admittedly, the 5 of Tanjiro hadn't even defeated Mikomo. On the surface, they lost. But belonging to the spiritual part, they won. What I saw was that during the battle of Mikomo, Nezuko would use his injured body to protect his teammates, even at the risk of his life. Tanjiro will look for a chance in the desperate situation. Agatsuma Zenitsu will always appear at the most critical moment and give the most fierce attack. Hashibira Inosuke will always fight at the forefront. Shinazugawa Genya. These are what I saw. Listening to Suemiu's words, Tanjiro, Nezuko, Agatsuma Zenitsu, Hashibira Inosuke, and Shinazugawa Genya couldn't help but glance at each other. Unknowingly, after 7 days of fighting, they have become comrades in arms who can give each other their backs without hesitation. What's more important is that even when you know that you are not an opponent, you can still bravely attack your opponent. These are the reasons why I said that you didn't lose. Sumiu said seriously. Even if you are crushed to the ground by your own weakness and powerlessness, you will ignite your fighting spirit and grit your teeth and move forward. Even if you stop and squat down, time will not wait for you, nor will it lean against you, and you share the sorrow. Right now, you are still very weak, and we, pillars, will bear the wind and rain for you. This is what we, pillars, do for you juniors. As seniors, we will never let you young shoots be plucked. He spoke calmly. As seniors, we will make enough room for you to develop. And in the future, you will also become seniors who will protect the sprouts. I have seen in you a new pillar, born, a new hope. And this is also the reason why the ghost killing squad has never yielded or ceased even though they were wounded in the battle with ghosts for thousands of years. This is the reason why you passed the assessment successfully. He smiled and looked at the 5 people. Congratulations. Now you can already be alone. You guys will become the most powerful weapon of the ghost killing squad in the future. The 5 people looked at each other, and the disappointment in their eyes disappeared. Thank you, senior. The 5 of them bowed slightly and spoke sincerely. Su Mu smiled, and couldn't help but look at the rising sun. It's time for the final battle. Let me, finally, give you one more lesson. Su Mu looked at the 5 people and spoke calmly. The 5 of them couldn't help showing their expectations. But at this moment, Su Mu walked towards the rock alone and stood there with clear eyes. Looking good. He said calmly, in the past, Ji Guoyuan made 1,500 effective slashes in 1 second, but from now on, your goal is to grow to that point. 1,500 effective cuts are made in 1 second. Agatsuma Zenitsu couldn't help opening his mouth in surprise. Even if he practiced the thunder breath, he could explode at the fastest speed in a short period of time, making 1,500 effective slashes in a second. It is not something that humans can do. That's what gods and Buddhas can do, right? Tanjiro couldn't help murmuring. Because of this, the National League will be called comparable to the living gods and Buddhas. Su Mu looked back at the 5 people, and your goal is to surpass gods and Buddhas. The hearts of the 5 couldn't help but startled. At this moment, Su Mu had already pressed the scabbard with his hand. In an instant, don't see how to draw the sword. Only see the front. The senior seems to have swung a sword like the sun. After a sword, everything passed away. Nothing seems to happen. But after a while, the vines attacked the top of the mountain, and all the trees fell down. It seems that the huge Fujiyama has been shaved bald. Looking at the backs of Tanjiro and the 5 leaving with incomparable shock and determination, the corners of Su Mu's mouth could not help but slightly twitch. Looking forward to their growth. I didn't expect Mu Zhong to be so strong. Mikomo raised his head. In the past 3 years, Su Mu has been practicing swords diligently and never slack off, but Mikomo does not know how far Su Mu's strength has improved. Because, in the past 3 years, every time she competed with Su Mu, she failed to let Su Mu display her full strength. Today, it was the first time that Mu Zhong used such a powerful sword move. Su Mu smiled and patted Mikomo on the head. It's still far away. But the hand gently caresses the hilt of the sword. Up to now, it's time to kill Kibutsuji Muzan as well. He whispered softly. However, in the past 3 years, Kibutsuji Muzan seems to have disappeared from the world, and there is no trace of him anymore. The crowd is vast, and with Kibutsuji Muzan's ability to change his body shape, it is really hard to find him in the crowd. This is far more uncomfortable than a head-on decisive battle. But, fortunately, there is still one thing in this world that can lure Kibutsuji Muzan out. And such a thing, Fu undoubtedly is the temptation to bask in the sun. Hidden in the darkness for thousands of years, Kibutsuji Muzan is more eager than any ghost to bask in the sun. But there is just such a temptation. But if you want to do all this, you need to go back and discuss it carefully. Let's go, we should go back. He turned his head, looked at Mikomo and Suyuri Kanao and said with a smile. After traveling during the day, night, Su Mu, Mikomo, Suyuri Kanao finally rushed back to Butterfly House. He has long been used to everything about Butterfly House, so he naturally brought Mikomo and Suyuri Kanao to a door and stopped. Suyuri Kanao knocked on the door. Soon the door opened. Yushiru, wearing a western shirt, opened the door. Looking at the boy in front of him, Yushiru looked complicated. In the past 3 years, Su Mu has done a lot of things. Not only has he never slacked off in sword practice, but he has not let go of his feelings with Kochu Kanae, Kochu Shinobu, Mikomo, and Suyuri Kanao. Even Kochu Shinobu's best friend, Kanroji Mitsuri, is now under Su Mu's sugar-coated shell. Of course, Yushiru didn't care about these. The only person he cared about was Tamayo-sama. But unfortunately, in 3 years, too many things have changed. Master Tamayo is also unavoidable. Shaking his head, Yushiru hid the sadness in his heart. As far as Yushiru is concerned, as long as he can see Master Tamayo is happy, he doesn't mind silently guarding him all the time. It's just that there is inevitably sadness in my heart. Where's Miss Tamayo? Sumyu looked at Yushiru and asked calmly. I'm doing experiments in the laboratory with Ms. Shinobu. Sumyu nodded and walked to the laboratory with Makomo and Tsuyuri Kanao. Soon, he came to a room filled with countless instruments. In the room, Tamayo and Kochu Shinobu seemed to have a disagreement about something, and they were discussing, and they didn't even notice his arrival. Sumyu didn't care, she just stood aside quietly, waiting for their discussion to finish. Finally, seeming to be convinced by some argument, Kochu Shinobu couldn't help but nodded, and the discussion ended. At this time, Tamayo and Kochu Shinobu found Sumyu who came in. Kochu Shinobu looked at Sumyu, with a look of joy in his eyes, and he came to Suemu's side with almost small steps, hugging Suemu's arm very affectionately. Unknowingly, Kochu Shinobu, a charming girl, has become a little lady exuding charm and calligraphy. Although the brows lacked the youthful exuberance of a young girl, there were more mature charms of a young woman. When did you come? Kochu Shinobu asked happily. Not long ago. Sumyu laughed. Why don't you call us? Kochu Shinobu patted his arm coquettishly. Didn't you see that you guys were having a lively discussion? So, I just waited for a while. Sumyu touched her nose. Tamayo also moved over and looked at Sumyu with a gentle look in his eyes. Come here today. Is there something to do? Tamayo couldn't help but said that in the past, Sumyu rarely came to the laboratory. Sumyu nodded, and after a little hesitation, he said seriously, I think it's time to deal with Kibutsuji Muzen. The calm words made the room not so peaceful, and everyone's breathing was a little short. Yushiru's eyes widened too. Although he knew that this day would come sooner or later, he didn't expect it to come so soon. You. Daughter sure. Tamayo couldn't help clenching his fists, full of excitement. Okay. He nodded, and a powerful breath emanated from his body. Feel this. Breath. Tamayo's eyes were shocked and delighted. Because, this powerful aura is only possessed by the person who made 1,500 effective slashes in a second hundreds of years ago. The person who is comparable to the living gods and Buddhas is Ji Guo Yuan Yi. But now, this kind of aura appeared on Suemu's body. The hope of beheading Kibutsuji Muzen is close at hand. After waiting for so many years, finally, it is possible to eliminate Kibutsuji Muzen. Great, great. Tears welled up in Tamayo's eyes, tears of joy. She has been waiting for this day for hundreds of years. Although I am sure that I can kill Kibutsuji Muzen is too cunning, and it is not easy to find him. So, I need one more thing, even with Kibutsuji Muzen's prudence, something that has to be exposed. He said softly. Kochu Shinobu naturally knew what it was, and his purple eyes were slightly complicated. Finally, turn around from a special metal box with countless locks, he took out a tube of potion containing mist and blood. Over the years, through the research on the blood collected by 12 Kazuki, and the blood research provided by Nezuko, plus, the participation of everyone in the medical skill of Kochu Shinobu. Through countless experiments, Tamayo and Kochu Shinobu finally developed a drug that allows ghosts to bathe in sunlight. Although with this enough to tempt Kibutsuji Muzen. But one crucial question is how to let Kibutsuji Muzen know that there is something in their hands that can make ghosts bathe in sunlight. The temptation that Kibutsuji Muzen could not refuse. Of course, Sumyu thought about going through Ghost Slayer. But in the end or give up the people. Although he has now become the ghost pillar of the ghost killing team, he has never let down his vigilance against the ghost killing team from the beginning to the end. If the ghost killing team knew about this drug that can bathe ghosts in the sun, the first thing they thought of would definitely be to destroy it. Because, the birth of this kind of thing is too harmful. Even Kochu Shinobu, the little woman who shared the bed with him, was comforted countless times by him before he reluctantly agreed to research this kind of thing. Not to mention the rest of the ghost killing squad. Wait until Sumyu leaves with Kochu Shinobu, Tsuyuri Kanao and Makomo. Yushiru looked at Tamayo who drank the potion, clenched his fists unconsciously, and there was a deep sense of unwillingness in his eyes. Master Tamayo, Daughter, you really going to make this bait? Tamayo nodded, it's the best option. As a valet who was brought by Kibutsuji Muzen hundreds of years ago, Kibutsuji Muzen clearly knows her medical skills are great, otherwise, he would not take the trouble to turn her into a ghost. And took her with him. Over the years, relying on the transformation of medical skills, she became the first ghost to escape the control of Kibutsuji Muzen. Well, it's only fitting that she, Tamayo, make this bait. However, this is very dangerous. It is better to let Sumyu go. He is the strongest. Even if Muzen, the ghost dancer, comes, there will be no danger. Yushiru spoke unwillingly. Tamayo shook his head. If Mew is used as a bait, then it is no longer a bait, but a bright poison, and Kibutsuji Muzan will not come out. Just because he followed the character of Kibutsuji Muzan, Tamayo knew clearly that Sumyu was not suitable to be a bait. 3 years ago, Sumyu killed 12 Kazuki, the second ice demon with a record of Doma, allowing Kibutsuji Muzan to hide from the darkness and never appeared again. It can be said that with Kibutsuji Muzan's character, if he is not absolutely sure of winning Sumyu, he will never appear in front of Sumyu. It was a very tyrannical, extremely hot-tempered ghost who dominated with absolute terror. But at the same time, it is also very timid and afraid of death. He will not put himself in a dangerous situation. Not to mention looking at the bright moon in the sky, Tamayo couldn't help clasping his hands together. This is also my own wish. My sinful life is used to pay for it, and it is only appropriate. At this moment, a look of firmness appeared in Tamayo's eyes. At the same time, there was a sense of relief. The warm sunlight shines on the bed along the window. The warm sun shone on her face, causing Sumyu to open her eyes involuntarily. What caught the eye was Kochu Shinobu's delicate little face. Little slacker, just woke up, we should implement the plan, you still wake up so late. Kochu Shinobu's face was almost pressed against his breath, purple eyes staring into his golden eyes. At this moment, I can clearly smell the fragrance from Kochu Shinobu's body. Sumyu stretched out her hand, pressed Kochu Shinobu's small head, kissed Kochu Shinobu, and then let go. Kochu Shinobu stood up angrily. This villain always bullies her like this. Although, I'm used to it. But still, there is a little bit of disgust. After all, it's pretty embarrassing. Sumyu smiled, also took the clothes that had been folded on the bed, and started to put them on. Kochu Shinobu blushed and turned his head away. It's not that I haven't seen it, I'm still blushing. Sumyu looked at Kochu Shinobu, who looked like a big girl with her head turned away, and couldn't help but smile, hee. I don't care about you. Kochu Shinobu stuck out his little tongue. She won't be as thick-skinned as this villain. Yes, what Ren says is right, who told Ren to be so thin-skinned, so tender that water can be squeezed out. Sumyu laughed. Kochu Shinobu turned around and was about to trouble Sumyu when there was a hasty knock on the door. As if expected, Sumyu patted Kochu Shinobu on the head. Go and open the doorknob. Door open. Tamayo's panicked face was revealed. Mew is not good, Yushiru is gone. Tamayo looked concerned. Sumyu had anticipated this. In fact, yesterday, when discussing strategies, he did not shy away from Yushiru, in order for this moment to come. Deep down in his heart, he didn't want Tamayo to be the bait. After all, Tamayo was his now too. But, there must be a ghost as the bait to lure Kibutsuji Muzan out. There are always ghosts in danger. He is not suitable and cannot be used as bait, and his bait is not a bait to Kibutsuji Muzan, but a scare. It stands to reason that Tamayo should be the most suitable, but he doesn't want Tamayo to be a bait too much. Then, there is only one side left in his heart, Shiro. And with Su Malang's understanding, the other party is willing to put Tamayo in danger. Therefore, he will fight for this bait on his own initiative. Sure enough, it did not exceed his expectations. Although it was expected, Sumyu didn't show it, but pretended to be surprised and asked, Yushiru is gone. Yes, I went to the laboratory this morning to tidy up my things, but I found that the potion that the laboratory kept for allowing ghosts to bathe in the sun was missing, so I went to find Yushiru, but I didn't find Yushiru's medicine. Trace. Tamayo briefly described the process of the matter. Maybe, Yushiru has to make his own way to replace Tamayo as the bait. Kochu Shinobu couldn't help but speak. Tamayo was slightly taken aback, but also thought of this possibility. His face changed drastically, and he was about to go out to look for it. But Sumyu stopped him. This may be a decision Yushiru has made in his heart, and it is useless for you to stop it. Tamayo couldn't help but calm down. Turning back, Tamayo looked at Sumyu with a complicated expression. You have already expected it. Sumyu was silent, did not lie, and nodded. People, there is always a preference between you and Yushiru. I chose you, and I don't want you to take risks. Tamayo lowered his head slightly. However, I am the most suitable, and this is what I should do. My sinful life was originally used to pay for it. Tamayo almost roared. She is an evil ghost who has eaten people, and the sins of this life can no longer be redeemed. Sumyu is silent. After becoming a ghost, she will be controlled by the ghost nature, and become an evil ghost who likes to devour flesh and blood. She has done various things, and when she waits for her consciousness to come back, what she has done will haunt her life like a nightmare. But all of this is not your original wish, but something you were willing to do. Sumyu made an excuse for Tamayo. But what I did is a fact. what I ate with my own hands. Tamayo knelt down, clutching his head. It was an unforgettable nightmare of fear. Sumiu knelt down and patted Tamayo's shoulder lightly. Then let me help you end this nightmare. Help you kill Kibutsuji Muzan. He said softly, raised his eyes, his golden pupils shone coldly, and the surrounding air was blowing a biting cold wind at this moment. Now that Yushiru has gone to be the bait, it's time for his hunters to act too. Yoshiwara Flower Street, a very lively city. Yushiru is all too familiar with this place, having accompanied Tamayo for many years in this city hiding from Kibutsuji Muzan. In the bustling city, with the crowds coming and going, Yushiru raised his head and stretched out his pale hands involuntarily. The warm sunshine that he had avoided before can now shine on his hands. He, the ghost, can bathe in the sun. This was the dream Kibutsuji Muzan pursued for thousands of years, but now, he, an ordinary ghost, has achieved it. And all of this is based on Master Tamayo's research. A drug that allows ghosts to bathe in the daytime has been developed. Although Kochu Shinobu was also responsible, but in Yushiru's view, that Kochu Shinobu was just a helper. Tamayo-sama is really a very, very powerful person. There was a look of admiration in Yushiru's eyes. For a long time, he has been silently fond of Master Tamayo, but he has always kept this admiration hidden in his heart. For Yushiru, the meaning of his existence is to protect Master Tamayo. Master Tamayo, I hope you will not be immersed in the past forever. He whispered softly. All those sins are your fault. The root of everything comes from Kibutsuji Muzan. And today, I'm here to redeem everything for Master Tamayo. While muttering, Yushiru's eyes became more determined. Soon he came to a flower building called Jingji House, where he stopped. Kyogoku House, the most prosperous vocal music place in Tokyo at night. Every night, there are a lot of people coming and going here. But during the day, it seems less sparse. The reason why Yushiru came here was because he knew that 12 Kazuki existed here. Of course, this information was all told by Sumiu, and it was said during the discussion last night. Sumiu said that hidden deep under the bustling city, the famous place of vocal music, the darkness of Kyogoku House, hides evil spirits. Yushiru doesn't know where 12 Kazuki is hiding in Kyogoku, and he won't look for it. Because, when those ghosts get the information that he can bathe in the sun, they will definitely come and catch him. Thinking like this, he opened his arms, and the ghostly breath spread around. Ghosts have breath, of course, they can also hide their own breath. Like Yushiru, he can hide his own aura, and he is very good at how to hide the aura of ghosts. It is precisely this skill. For hundreds of years, he and Master Tamayo have been able to avoid Kibutsuji again and again. The pursuit of Muzan's men. It was the first time to expose the breath like this, and it was the first time. As the breath radiates to the surroundings, as long as there are ghosts nearby, they will definitely be able to feel it. In a hidden dark basement, two ghosts suddenly opened their eyes, raised their scarlet eyes, glanced at each other, and could see each other's doubts. Is there a ghost so swaggering in the daytime? Gyutaro and Daki looked at each other, and they could see disbelief in each other's eyes. You know, the ghost killing team has been in the limelight recently, and many ghosts have been beheaded one after another. Although, most of these ghosts are not seen by Gyutaro and Daki, including the lower string in 12 Kazuki. But there is a ghost, but they have to pay attention to it. That's 12 Kazuki, Winding 2, Ice Ghost Doma's death group. Others may not know how powerful Doma is, but Gyutaro and Daki clearly know how powerful Doma is, because their brother and sister were invited by Doma to become ghosts. During this period, if you expose the aura of ghosts so much, you are not afraid of being found by the ghost killing team. Feeling incredible, at the same time, also scolded the other party for being stupid. If the ghost killing team was attracted because of this stupid ghost's exposure, it would be a trouble for them. Thinking like this, Gyutaro and Luo also began to walk in the dark underground. Soon, in a dark pavilion, through the scenery from outside, saw a ghost bathed in sunlight. Big brother, is that ghost bathed in sunlight? Daki rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Gyutaro was just as incredulous as his sister. But the feeling clearly told Gyutaro that the other party was a ghost. A ghost, bathed in the sun, what an appalling thing. Not to mention these 12 Kazuki, even Kibutsuji Muzan, the original ghost in this world, the existence of these ghosts, the absolute ruler of ghosts, who claims to be a creature infinitely close to perfection, cannot bathe in the sun. Unable to overcome the defect of being afraid of the sun. The ghost in front of me obviously feels very weak. But can bask in the sun. The scarlet eyes suddenly became greedy and fiery. If one could overcome the defect of being afraid of the sun, that ghost would be an almost flawless existence. Only the ghosts living in the shadows know how much they long for the warm sunshine. And when Gyutaro and Daki showed greedy eyes, Yushiru also noticed it, and raised his eyes unconsciously, and fell on Gyutaro and Daki who were hiding in the dark. At this moment, the corners of Yushiru's mouth curled up slightly, as if mocking. Hateful. Seeing the sneer at the corner of Yushiru's mouth, Gyutaro and Daki seemed to understand what Yushiru was thinking, and couldn't help gnashing their teeth. For ghosts, they cannot bask in the sun, and can only hide in dark corners like mice whenever the sun rises. This is probably unacceptable as a ghost painting. What's more, sunlight is something that threatens their life and existence. Any ghost hopes to overcome the defect of sunshine. Do I know who he is? Suddenly, Daki seemed to think of something and couldn't help opening his mouth. Who? Gyutaro couldn't help asking. Yushiru, the follower who followed the defector. Daki said seriously. Daki is now the Oiran of Yoshihara Dori Street, and is aliased as Brackenheim in Kyogokura. The reason why their brothers and sisters still live in the bustling Yoshihara Street is because the ghost dancer has no chance to gather information about human beings. At the same time, to provide convenience for the Wu of the Wind, the ghost of the pot, Gyoko, and to get in touch with a lot of information all day long, Daki naturally has information about Yushiru. I heard that this Yushiru is not a ghost created by adults. Daki whispered softly. The ghosts in this world are basically ghosts who drink the blood of Kibutsuji Muzan. Apart from Sumyu, the only exception is Yushiru. It is said that Yushiru was transformed from a human into a ghost by Tamayo. I heard that Tamayo is a very powerful doctor. Daki's eyes brighten instantly. Since she can research how to turn people into ghosts, it is not impossible to research how to make ghosts also bathe in sunlight. After thinking through all this, my thoughts suddenly became smoother. No matter what, Chian Shuru must be caught. Gyutaro and Daki looked at each other, and they both saw the determination to catch Yushiru in each other's eyes. The night fell slowly. When the last ray of sunlight completely left the world and the earth was plunged into darkness, Gyutaro and Daki could no longer bear the greed in their hearts, and ran to Yushiru almost instantly. Traitor? Gyutaro looked at Yushiru. Yushiru looked at Gyutaro and Daki standing in front of him, and countless evil spirits standing behind them. The number of ghosts is beyond imagination. The ghosts hidden in the dark corners of the city, silently devouring human blood and flesh at places no one knows about. But, in the end, Yushiru still set his sights on Gyutaro and Daki. The ghost of the twins, the land of the string in 12 Kazuki, an existence he had avoided before, but now, he personally walked in front of them. Yushiru looked at the two and said calmly, I want to meet Kibutsuji Muzan. Sure enough. Gyutaro and Daki couldn't help staring at each other. As expected, the other party did it on purpose. He scanned the surroundings vigilantly, but found no trace of the ghost-killing squad. Can you tell me why you betrayed Master Tamayo? Daki was slightly puzzled. If he remembered correctly, this Yushiru was the follower of Tamayo's fugitive. Because, I'm already tired of the life of fleeing. Yushiru had already prepared an explanation. That reason is far from enough. Gyutaro shook his head. He had fled with that Lord Tamayo for hundreds of years, but he suddenly chose to betray, just because he was tired and couldn't justify it. Also, I want to ask Kibutsuji Muzan to help me kill that ghost Sumyu, and at the same time, give me blood to make me stronger. A hint of hatred appeared in Yushiru's eyes. This hatred is real. It was Sumyu who snatched Master Tamayo, whom he guarded with all his heart. Okay, I see. In the future, you will be grateful for your choice. What a correct choice it is. Then, bring me to meet Kibutsuji Muzan. Yushiru said lightly. He did not become a ghost because of Kibutsuji Muzan's blood. He was transformed into a ghost by Tamayo through surgery, so he does not have the shackles of ghosts in this world. In other words, even if the name, Kibutsuji Muzan, is said, nothing will happen to him. But other ghosts can't. Even Gyutaro and Daki, who are as strong as 12 Kazuki, are not enough. Last question. There was excitement in Gyutaro's eyes. Can you really bask in the sun? Yes, as you can see. Yushiru didn't speak, just replied lightly. Although, during the day, they hide in the darkness and spy on Yushiru bathed in sunlight. But when Yushiru really admitted it frankly, they still felt extremely excited in their hearts. Ghosts are afraid of the sun for a long time. Whenever the sun rises, they will hide in dark corners like mice. How sad it is to be an almost immortal existence, but hide in the darkness like a mouse. So, when Yushiru confessed, he was really excited. Plesia Gyutaro and Daki stood on both sides of Yushiru, one left and one right, and the surrounding ghosts also began to join forces. Maintain superficial politeness. Once Yushiru wants to escape, he will be hit by a thunderbolt. Yushiru didn't even think about running away, and followed Gyutaro and Daki obediently. In fact, Gyutaro and Daki don't know where Kibutsuji Muzan is, and Kibutsuji Muzan's trace is unknown to them. In fact, although the winding in 12 Kazuki has a channel connected to Kibutsuji Muzan, the channel of this connection is in the mastery of Kibutsuji Muzan. In fact, as long as Kibutsuji Muzan doesn't respond to this channel, they don't even have a channel that doesn't have a relationship with Ghost Dance. Immediately after placing Yushiru under house arrest, Gyutaro contacted Daki to inform Kibutsuji Muzan's channel. In a dark corner, Kibutsuji Muzan got a message from Gyutaro and Daki. Being able to bask in the sun, Kibutsuji Muzan murmured slightly at first, then stood up abruptly, his pale face full of excitement. For Kibutsuji Muzan, the thing that can make Kibutsuji Muzan most obsessed is to be bathed in the sun. Moreover, this is not only obsession, but also related to his life and death. As an almost immortal existence, the only thing that can kill him is sunlight. But if he can bask in the sun, it means that he is no longer a creature infinitely close to perfection, but a real, perfect creature. Thinking about it this way, Gui Wuxin Muzan could hardly restrain his heart that he was going to see Yushiru now. But in the end, Kibutsuji Muzan, who is cautious by nature, still felt that he had to defend himself. Let Gyutaro and Daki bring Yushiru here, Kibutsuji Muzan ordered. At the same time, pass the message, let the Black Dead, Akaza, Hantengu, Nikime, Gyoko, Kaigaku come to Infinity City. After summoning the 12 ghosts, all of them are now wound up in Infinite City, with escorts on the left and right, and the heavenly realm of Weiwu Mountain feels slightly at ease. With such a lineup, even if the ghost killing squad gathers the entire team, it is impossible to imagine that it will be able to pose any threat to him. But don't know why Kibutsuji Muzan always has a sense of restlessness. Yoshiwara Flower Street at night. Sumiyu walks here alone. The Yushiru who left was very smart. When he left, he was wearing a firefly powder that Tamayo had researched over the years. Firefly powder is a very special thing, it is useless by itself, but when it meets the flint in his hand, it will produce an almost invisible phantom. Before leaving, Shite wiped the yellow powder all over his body. And at this moment, he followed this phantom to Yoshihara Flower Street. He, who is familiar with the plot, naturally knows that Gyutaro and Daki, the ghosts of 12 Kazuki, are hidden in Yoshiwara Flower Street. For a long time, he has never touched these two ghosts, so is this day. Take a step. Finally, I came to a vocal music place called Kyogoku House. And the moment he stepped into the basement, dozens of pairs of scarlet eyes stared at him. An evil spirit hiding under the bustling city. So much. Roar, strange ghosts broke into the field, causing the ghosts here to roar. Haven't waited for these ghosts to come and attack. There was a tremor in the air, in an instant. Guanghua flashed. The swaying sword energy glanced around, and all the walking ghosts stopped stiffly. Finally it turned into black smoke and dissipated completely, leaving only the stench all over the floor. He looked around, but did not find Yushiru. Have you left? He whispered slightly, but his eyes were indifferent. After solving the ghost in the basement, Sumiyu continued to walk according to the breath left by Yushiru. On Jiyuan Street, Sumiyu hurried. But soon, a woman appeared in front of him, blocking his way. The woman stood there quietly, with 6 flower buns on her head, a beautiful woman with flower tattoos on her left cheek and right forehead. The temperament is enchanting and abnormal. She is a very charming and alluring woman. The first time people see her, she wants people to give this ripe peach to evil wolves to eat. Young master. Why are you in such a hurry? The night is just right here, I have a jug of wine. Little girl Feiji, can I invite you to have a drink? Su Emu's golden eyes stared at each other calmly. Silence. Fern Ji seemed shy by Su Emu's golden eyes, and couldn't help brushing the messy hair on her forehead with her fingers. The woman's fingertips seemed to be painted with bright red, as bright as flowing blood. I can't afford your wine. But. Su Emu's voice paused slightly. Wait until the other party's attention seems to be the moment when is completely concentrated by him. He grinned slightly at the corner of his mouth, and said with a smile, it's just right, let me borrow your head. The woman named Fern Ji was stunned for a moment, and then, like a little girl, she showed panic and uneasiness, and her eyes were full of panic, showing fear. What the young master said, the little girl can't understand, please don't scare the little girl. With such a pitiful and delicate appearance, one can't wait to hold her in her arms and love her, so as to soothe her wounded heart. But next second, a sword was cut out, and the golden sword glow flickered out. Show no mercy. A beautiful and spiteful head was severed by the Nichiren blades. Blood gushed out, and the ground seemed to be stained red. Generally speaking, whether it is a human or a ghost, if the head is cut off by Nichiren blades, it will be invaded by the energy of the Nichiren blade sun, and will eventually turn into black smoke and dissipate in the world. But obviously, even if the woman in front of her was decapitated by Sumyu with a sword, she did not die. The head left the body and yelled at Sumyu. For this situation, Sumyu is not surprised. The woman named Fern-ji in front of her should be the land of the string in 12 Kazuki, the ghost of the twins. Gyutaru's sister Daki. As one of 12 Kazuki, Daki and his big brother have very special abilities. It can be said that Daki and his big brother Gyutaro are two ghosts in one, unless both of them are beheaded. Even if one of them is beheaded, he will not die. Daki's head and body still want to walk together, heal again, and then fight Sumyu. But with a flash of sword light, Daki's body instantly turned into 1,500 pieces. Even with the ghost's recovery ability, in this situation, it would take half a month to recover, and moreover, within this half month, one must have sufficient nutrition. Otherwise, this time may have to be extended. Hateful. Daki's beautiful eyes were full of hatred at the moment. But when Sumyu walked step by step, the resentment turned into incomparable panic and fear. This is a terrible man, no, a terrible ghost. So cold and ruthless, even more terrifying than Kibutsuji Muzan. Coming to Daki, looking at him. I told you, I will lend you my head. Why do you still resist? He has a handsome face and a smile, but in Daki's eyes, he looks terrifying like a demon. My heart sank all of a sudden. And Sumyu had already grabbed Daki's hair, carried his head and continued on the road. He knew very well that Daki and Gyutaro are two ghosts in one, unless both of them are beheaded. Even if one of them is beheaded, he will not die. Therefore, he will not do useless work. Instead, continue to follow the breath left by Yushiru. We must find Kibutsuji Muzan before Kibutsuji Muzan reacts. Infinite City 12 Kazuki, one of the top strings, the Black Death is all back here. For the first time in hundreds of years, it was summoned by Kibutsuji Muzan. As the twin big brother who once succeeded Guo Yuanyi, he was very powerful when he was alive. However, compared to his younger brother, he is like a firefly looking up at the stars. By his side, he will always be bleak. Especially his younger brother's incomparable talent made him extremely jealous. In order to pursue his younger brother, he resolutely abandoned his family and status to join the Ghost Killing Squad. After joining the Ghost Killing Squad, I kept honing my skills in order to surpass my younger brother, but I witnessed the sudden death of the striped fighters one after another, and knew that I would die at the age of 25 as a striped swordsman. I don't feel reconciled to having no time to exercise. In the end, in order to obtain eternal time and the opportunity to improve martial arts, he accepted Kibutsuji Muzan's invitation to become a ghost and became a ghost, and cut off the head of the contemporary old Yubayashiki as a certificate for Muzan. He has been constantly improving his strength, just to be able to reach the pinnacle in the field of sword skills and surpass that unattainable younger brother. Kokoshibu came to Infinity City and sat down at the meeting table of the convened place, second only to Kibutsuji Muzan, demonstrating the status of 12 Kazuki, one of the top strings. Soon a name Shangxian also came soon. Called up by Kibutsuji Muzan, these wind-ups dare not snub. Come one by one. Winding the third, fighting the ghost. Kennel seat. The former wounded house, the ghost of the clone, Hantengu. Winding Wu, enclosing the gland. And at this moment, Gyutaro, the ghost of the twins, is pale and ugly. And, not long after betraying the ghost-killing team, Kibutsuji Muzan's valued him, making an exception for the new winding land. Kaigaku who was tied with Gyutaro. Now, except for Nikime, the ghost of the castle who is still with Kibutsuji Muzan, all the upper strings are called by Kibutsuji Muzan. Everyone's eyes converged, and they all saw each other's doubts. Although in the past 3 years, the ghost killing team has continuously achieved good results in the battle against ghosts, even 12 Kazuki's resignation has now disappeared. But for them, there is actually not too much worry. Except, 12 Kazuki, Ice Ghost. Doma's death made them feel bad once. What the hell happened? Let Kibutsuji Muzan call everyone. Gyutaru's face was ugly, he had already guessed vaguely, because he felt that his younger sister Daki was subdued without the power to resist in Yoshiwara Flower Street. Moreover, it can be felt that the person who subdued his sister is rushing here quickly. Could it be? Gyutaro had some guesses in his mind, and his already ugly face became paler and paler. However, he calmed down immediately. As a leader, they all knew that Kibutsuji Muzan had the ability to probe other ghosts' inner thoughts. If Kibutsuji Muzan sees the fear in his heart, and if Kibutsuji Muzan is brutal, he will never end well. Infinite City, Kibutsuji Muzan looked at Yushiru who had become a mess in his hands with a hideous expression. This is a ghost with an immortal body. At this moment, those who are already dead cannot die anymore. Damn, hate. Kibutsuji Muzan was furious. Although, Yushiru has already made the determination to die, but Kibutsuji Muzan is the ghost king of thousands of years after all. At the hands of Kibutsuji Muzan, Shiro is quickly forced out of the secret. He also revealed his secret as a bait. It turned out that Yushiru was just a bait, and the moment Yushiru was brought to Infinite City, it meant that his lair was exposed. He was greedy for the temptation of bathing in the sun, and exposed himself. Damn it. While Kibutsuji Muzan was furious, he couldn't help feeling panic in his heart. It is learned from Yushiru that not only the drug that can make ghosts bathe in sunlight was developed by that ghost Sumyu, but Sumyu will also come to kill him himself. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Kibutsuji Muzan let out a low growl. Kokoshibu, are they here? Turning back, Kibutsuji Muzan asked in a low voice to the female ghost with long black hair and bangs covering her eyes beside him. Under the bangs of this female ghost is a single eye engraved with A. Winding House, ghost of the castle, Nakime. It's already here. Nakime nodded immediately. As the ghost of the city, she is almost the controller of this infinite city now. Okay. Then this time, I will destroy him with my own hands. There was a deep killing intent in Kibutsuji Muzan's eyes. He was really angry. Sumyu, who was holding Daki's head, stopped, and when he got here, the breath about Yushiru completely disappeared. Looking around, the surrounding area is vast, and there is no figure in sight. But Yushiru's breath did indeed end here. Impossible to disappear for no reason. Can you feel your big brother's breath? He lowered his head and asked about the head in his hand. Daki was silent and didn't answer. However, although Daki didn't speak, the expression of the other party changed. He still saw something. That is, Gyutaro most likely disappeared here. Since I can't find it. Sumyu looked at everything around him, then cut everything with a sword. Saying so. The sword in his hand was also pulled out slightly. Take a slight breath. A powerful momentum bloomed from him. Next second. Cut out with a sword. The sword energy that seems to tear the sky and the earth is everywhere, and wherever the sword light passes, it seems that the air has been cut through. When the sword energy meets the empty air in front of it, it seems to touch something suddenly. Accompanied by a huge explosion sounded. The world in front of him has changed. It is no longer an empty wilderness, but a huge city. The space is disordered and continuously extended. Is there no doubt that this is the infinite city? If the guess is correct, Kibutsuji Muzan's winding place, the ghost of the city. Nakime controls this infinite city. Kibutsuji Muzan appeared at the meeting and was discussing this matter with Black Death, Akaza, Hantengu, Gyutaro, Gyoko, Kaigaku, but Nakime behind Kibutsuji Muzan said in a low voice. The city has been discovered. Hearing Nakime's words, Kibutsuji Muzan's scarlet eyes shrank slightly. The ghost who killed Doma? Kokoshibu asked suddenly. Kibutsuji Muzan nodded. I heard it's on sale? Kokoshibu asked calmly. At this moment, his 6 eyes opened suddenly, exuding endless coldness. For Kokoshibu, since the death of Ji Guoyuan, he has no chance to win Ji Guoyuan in his life. He will never forget that scene. When his 80-year-old gray-haired younger brother came to him and turned into a ghost, he couldn't believe it. You must know that a striped swordsman would die before the age of 25, and the 2 sets of gray-haired Ji Guoyuan were still alive. Facing Ji Guoyuan, who is still alive, he has become a ghost, and has become even stronger. Kokoshibu challenged his younger brother. But Dongji Guoyuan set up his posture and launched an attack. Kokoshibu suddenly felt that the atmosphere around him was oppressive with that unrevealed posture. The decisive battle begins. However, before he could strike with his sword, Ji Guoyuan's knife had already slashed open his neck. Even if he is over 80 years old, even if he is very old, Ji Guoyuan's slash is no different from that in his heyday. It's just that although he cut his neck, he didn't die, which made Kokoshibu feel strong anger while being afraid. However, soon, Kokoshibu was shocked to find that Ji Guoyuan had already run out of oil and died of old age after the knife was cut. The death of Ji Guoyuan was a defeat that he could never win back in his life. It also let Kokoshibu know that he will never have a chance to beat Yuan. From that moment on, he immediately made it clear that he would not lose to anyone other than Ji Guoyuan. Of course, in the past 3 years, he also heard about Su Emu's reputation, claiming to be the one who surpassed Ji Guoyuan. Before, he only knew it with a smile. As the twin big brother of Ji Guoyuan, Kokoshibu deeply knew how powerful Ji Guoyuan was. He deeply and clearly remembered the time when he was still a human being. At that time, his talent was still good. As long as he worked hard, he could continue to improve. Just like the old man moved like a turtle, there is no comparison. In Kokoshibu's heart, no one in this world can surpass Ji Guoyuan. Not even Kibutsuji Muzan could have him. Ji Guoyuan, a powerful figure who really stands on the ceiling of this world. Therefore, when he heard that someone claimed to surpass Ji Guoyuan, he just laughed it off. But now, the one who just laughed it off came to Infinity City alone, and Kibutsuji Muzan, who forced him, summoned the upper string. From this point of view, the rumor may have a certain possibility. This made him angry in his heart that someone boasted that he had surpassed Ji Guoyuan, and at the same time, he also had expectations. One must know that the most regrettable thing in his life was not being able to beat his younger brother. If so, this person is really strong. So the defeat that I could not win back in my life may be improved today. A sword cut through the fog, revealing the infinite city in front of him. Su Mu's eyes were calm. However, he did not step into the infinite city right away. Although he is very confident in his own strength, it is not impossible to be confident that he can fight against Kibutsuji Muzan alone. But overconfidence is not a good thing. In any case, Kibutsuji Muzan, as a ghost who has existed in this world for thousands of years, the absolute ruler of ghosts, although he is cautious and timid in character, he still has a few brushes in his strength. Not to mention, he is not alone. Why take this risk? He took out the signal firework from his waist, pulled it lightly, and with the firework launching, the dark night had already been dyed a dark red sunset at this moment. Not long after the signal was launched, accompanied by the sound of footsteps. One figure after another appeared. Style, Kochu Kanae. Bug Pillar, Kochu Shinobu Love Pillar, Kanroji Mitsuri. Column sound, Yu Sui Tengen Shaju, Tokito Tinlong. Water column, Please Rabbit Front Water column, Yorokodaki Sakanji. Yanzu, Rengoku Kyojuru. In addition to Demon Slayer's Pillar, there is Makomo, as well as Tamayo, Suyuri Kanao. The ghost killing squad came much faster than he expected. Originally, he thought he would wait for. After all, the time from planning this plan to discovering Kibutsuji Muzan's lair was far shorter than expected. To gather all the pillars of the Demon Slayer squad in a short period of time requires an unimaginable summoning ability. Ahem. Yenju, Hamejima Kiyome pushed Yubayashiki Kagaya, who was sitting in a wheelchair, and walked over. Beside Yubayashiki Kagaya, the former Yenju, Rengoku Mojiro. However, Yubayashiki Kagaya's health is getting worse and worse. Even with the joint treatment of Tamayo and Kochu Shinobu, his injury cannot be reversed. Although the physical condition was very poor, when the master, Yubayashiki Kagaya, looked at the infinite city in front of him, his pale face flashed a morbidly excited blush. For the maternity family, Kibutsuji Muzan is their family's lifelong enemy. Although generations of obstetricians wanted to kill Kibutsuji Muzan, it was easier said than done. Not only did they not pose a substantial threat to Kibutsuji Muzan, but the maternity family suffered heavy losses. Generation after generation of despair, to their generation, finally there is hope. That's how Yubayashiki Kagaya is not excited. And with the appearance of all the pillars in the infinite city, on the tall city wall, one figure after another appeared. One of the winding ones, the ghost of the sword, is black and dead. Winding 3, fighting ghosts. Akaza. The pre-winding place, the ghost of the doppelganger, Hantengu. When the strings are wounded, the ghosts surround the ambitions. Winding land, ghost of twins, Gyutaro. New winding land, thunder ghost, Kaigaku. Looking at 12 Kazuki, the pillars of the Demon Slayer team couldn't help but hold the Nichiren blades tightly in their hands. For them, this battle is about living to death. Either they die, or 12 Kazuki dies, there is no other choice. Even if we all die, the siege squad will survive forever. The master, Yubayashiki Kagaya, murmured. Even though the lineup with all its strength was annihilated this time, it was not extinct. His son Yubayashiki Kirya will take over his position of the master, and reintegrate the ghost-killing team. Even if all the pillars here are dead, fresh blood from the ghost-killing squad has already poured in. Especially this group of outstanding talents. Kamado Tanjiro Kamado Nezuko Agatsuma Zenitsu. Hashibira Inosuke Shinazugawa Genya. These are all the fresh blood poured into the ghost-killing squad recently. Their son Yubayashiki Kirya will take over from them with the help of Tomioka Giyu and continue their journey against ghosts. Of course, all of this is based on failure. For this battle, the master, Yubayashiki Kagaya, is actually not optimistic. He deeply understands the strength of Kibutsuji Muzan, so he naturally knows what may be encountered in this battle. Not to mention Kibutsuji Muzan, even 12 Kazuki, who is standing here now, is a very difficult character for the Demon Slayer team. Although the situation is not optimistic, after receiving the news from Kochu Shinobu, the master, Yubayashiki Kagaya gathered all the pillars, as soon as possible. Even if the battle was inevitable, Yubayashiki Kagaya felt that he would never let this go a chance to kill Kibutsuji Muzan. On the road against Kibutsuji Muzan, almost everyone has already made up their minds. At this moment, Sumyu also raised his head, and looked at Kibutsuji Muzan, who came last in the winding place behind him, Nakime, the ghost of the city. Looking at Kibutsuji Muzan, Su-emu's golden eyes flickered coldly. In the past 3 years, he has continuously improved his martial arts, and he has been able to slash 2,000 effective slashes in 1 second. Even if Kibutsuji Muzan splits into more than 1,800 pieces of flesh and escapes in an instant, he can still slay them all in an instant. To today he has surpassed Ji Guo Yuan Yi. When Su-mu was staring at Kibutsuji Muzan was also looking at Su-mu. For Kibutsuji Muzan, it was the appearance of Su-mu that made him fall into the unfavorable situation at hand. All along, he has never paid attention to the ghost-killing squad, but now, it has become a serious problem for him, and everything is thanks to the people in front of him. Although his character is timid in nature, but now, there is no way out, and he does not lack the courage to fight for his life. All windings, all ghosts. Kibutsuji Muzan took a deep breath, suppressed his inner exposure, his voice was extremely cold, and he waved his hand gently. Kill me. At the same moment, Infinite City began to change. A pillar of the Demon Slayer team and members of the Demon Slayer team, under the control of Nakime, the ghost of the city, were divided into rooms and faced with ghosts one by one. But in the center of the field, there is no change around Su-mu and Ghost Dance Muzan. The eyes of the two met in the air. The victory of this battle ultimately depends on the two of them. If Su-mu wins, the ghost-killing team wins. If Su-mu is defeated, the ghost-killing team that came here will be doomed. Looking at the figure standing opposite, Kibutsuji Muzan narrowed his eyes. At this moment, his aura also instantly increased. As the first ghost who has survived for more than 1,000 years, the absolute ruler of ghosts, who claims to be a creature infinitely close to perfection, is not an ordinary person. A powerful momentum swept across, trying to overwhelm the opponent. However, Su-mu still stood there calmly. At this moment, he no longer hides himself, and his aura bursts out at this moment. Like an unsheathed sword, show your sharpness. The momentum that swept over was already dispersed before it approached. At this moment, Su-mu pressed her hand lightly on her waist, and her golden eyes shone with a coldness. Stare coldly at the ghost dance opposite, Suji Muzan. Kibutsuji Muzan took a deep breath, felt the powerful aura emanating from Su-mu, and couldn't hide his shock. I remember the last time I fought near the Kanao family, the strength of the opponent was far from what it is now, which made him feel a sense of panic at this moment. In just 3 years, the opponent's strength has increased to this point. The speed of its progress is simply terrifying. If I had known this earlier, should have. He took another breath to hide the regret in his heart. The matter has come to this point, and it is useless to regret anymore. It's just that there is one thing that Kibutsuji Muzan doesn't understand. As a ghost, why did Su-mu go with the ghost hunter? Having doubts in his heart, Kibutsuji Muzan did not hide it in his heart, but raised his head and looked at the other party. I don't understand, as a ghost, as a creature that is infinitely close to perfection, why should the riders stand together? Kibutsuji Muzan has always believed that from the moment he becomes a ghost, his own life level is infinitely elevated, and he is an existence higher than human beings. For thousands of years, although he has been bothered by organizations like the Ghost Slayer Squad, from the bottom of his heart, Kibutsuji Muzan has never put the Ghost Slayer Squad in his eyes. What really surprised him was, Su-mu, this ghost, even if he was hostile to him, why would he stand with humans? Why should a life that is infinitely close to perfection be entangled with this inferior and short-lived life of human beings? Su-mu looked at Kibutsuji Muzan, looking at the other party's gang madness. Shook his head, are you living by your own will? Kibutsuji Muzan was slightly taken aback. The moment you become a ghost, you have already been infiltrated by the ghost nature. It is better to say that you are dead than alive. What is alive is just an empty shell of a ghost. Su-mu looked at the other party sarcastically. Your existence is just a kind of sorrow, so pitiful. What? Kibutsuji Muzan sneered. You are the saddest, ghost, who has eternal life, but human life is only 100 years, and you, who have eternal life like me, are with this inferior life. That's the saddest thing. Su-mu shook his head, and didn't want to say anything more to the other party. No matter what you say, because of your different positions, it is impossible to convince each other. Although he has become a ghost, Su-mu has never forgotten that he is a human being, and what he possesses is human will. Even if you walk in the dark, you always yearn for the light. But Kibutsuji Muzan is different. When he falls into the darkness, he turns into a mud like darkness. Kibutsuji Muzan walks in darkness, and his heart is also dark, and finally becomes one with darkness. Although he and Kibutsuji Muzan are both ghosts, they are different after all. But now, for each other, there is no need to say much. Hands gently pressed on the waist. At this moment, he could hear the sword trembling at his waist. In the past 3 years, he had practiced the sword day by day, and he had long been compatible with this sword. The sword was slowly pulled out of its sheath, and the streamer flowed on the sword. At this moment, Kibutsuji Muzan on the opposite side also moved, and 9 pipe whips emerged from his back, and his arms became like thorn whips, as firm as a rock. In an instant, he appeared beside Sumiu, with 9 whips coming from behind him at various tricky angles, and at the same time, his arms like thorn whips were also waving. Facing Kibutsuji Muzan's attack, if his strength is the same as last time, he can only resist with his body, relying on the ghost's immortal body. Even if he is hit by the attack, he can recover quickly. But now obviously not. Sumiu held the sword and slashed out in an instant. For a moment the 9 pipe whips that Kibutsuji Muzan swung over were cut off instantly, although, in a very short time, the 9 pipe whips behind Kibutsuji Muzan recovered, but obviously, this fight is different from the last one. Last time the two played against each other, he was the one who was exhausted, but now, it was Kibutsuji Muzan who was exhausted. The sword in his hand was clenched tightly, and his momentum was constantly rising in an instant. In this world, it is as powerful as a ceiling. Even if Ji Guoyuan was one at the beginning, he was not as good as him. This point is clearest to Kibutsuji, who is the enemy at the moment. At this moment, I feel the powerful momentum of Sumiu. Kibutsuji Muzan was terrified. This kind of powerful momentum is the same even when facing that unforgettable figure back then. It seems to be facing Ji Guoyuan again. It was like Ji Guoyuan questioning himself back then. What do you take human life for? I feel panicked. As far as Kibutsuji Muzan is concerned, he will never forget the sun like Yi Jianshuan that Ji Guoyuan pair cut off himself that day. Infinite City, a room 12. Kazuki, Akaza, the father and son of Flame Pillar, Rengoku Kyojuro holding Nichiren blades, and former Pillar of Fire, Rengoku Mojiro stood opposite each other. Whether it is from the state or the breathing rate, the father and son have already begun to appear disordered. Things were obviously a little bit worse for the two of them. Although they had just fought with Akaza, the two of them worked together, but they fought back and forth with Akaza. They even used Nichiren blades to slash Chai Wazuo's chest. But humans and ghosts are essentially two different creatures. For ghosts, as long as the neck is not cut off, no matter how serious the body is injured, they can recover quickly. People are different. Not only are their physical strength limited, but their bodies cannot repair themselves. Just like the current Yanzu, Rengoku Kyojuro and the former Yanzu, Rengoku Mojiro. At this moment, Pillar of Flame, Rengoku Kyojuro's left eye has been destroyed, and, Pillar of Flame, Rengoku Mojiro's ribs are broken, and his heart is completely broken due to the poison. Pillar of Flame, Rengoku Kyojuro is in better condition, although his left eye is damaged, it is not fatal. But the condition of the former Flame Pillar, Rengoku Mojiro, is very bad. Under such circumstances, if he wants to survive, I am afraid. Akaza stared at the father and son, and the fighting spirit of the two gave him an extremely powerful shock. Become a ghost. He looked at the former Flame Pillar, Rengoku Mojiro. The other party's condition is not good at the moment. If it continues, the only way to die. If you become a ghost, you will be able to survive. Given life, who would choose to die? However, when Rengoku Mojiro looked at his son Rengoku Kyojuro, he was slightly silent. His son, who was burning like a flame, seemed to light up his heart all of a sudden. Since his wife died, his heart has long since died. But today, Rengoku Mojiro raised his head. Although he was old, he always thought that he could not achieve any great things. But he has his own mission and his own beliefs. Become a ghost? The corner of Rengoku Mojiro's lips curled into a sneer. Stop joking. I will do my duty. Duty as a father. He looked at his son, Pillar of Flame, Rengoku Kyojuro. Father is wrong. Actually, it's not that our father and son can't accomplish great things, at least it's different in front of us. Rengoku Kyojuro couldn't help but shed tears. Let's fight together. Former Pillar of Flame, Rengoku Mojiro looked at his son who seemed to be burning with flames all over his body. It is good. Pillar of Flame, Rengoku Kyojuro gritted his teeth. At this moment, he suppressed the grief in his heart. He knew that his father's injury was extremely serious at this moment. If continue will die. And as Akaza said, becoming a ghost can indeed survive. But neither he nor his father would make such a choice. This is something that has long been clear in each other's hearts. Comprehensive concentration, Breath of Flame. Breath of Flame 9 type Rengoku. The two exhaled at the same time. At this moment, the two of them seemed to be surrounded by scorching fireworks. Nichiren blades also roared at this moment. The two stepped on the ground almost at the same time and rushed towards Akaza like shooting stars. Seeing the father and son rushing towards each other, Akaza was also extremely excited. It's really powerful fighting spirit. With such a serious injury, he can still maintain such courage and mental strength, without showing a single flaw. You really should become a ghost. Expand the spell, destroy the killing and destroying formula. The fists wrapped in a powerful fighting spirit collided with the father and son Nichiren blades of Flame Pillar, Rengoku Kyojuro and Former Pillar of Fire, Rengoku Mojuro. The victory or defeat is also in the dust at this moment. Akaza's two shoulders were completely cut into pieces, but at the same time, two fists without arms pierced into the chests of the father and son. Step back slightly. Akaza looked at the father and son. Continue, you will die, like me, become a ghost. Say it, you will become ghosts. You guys are the strong ones chosen by me. Listening to such shouts, the father and son seemed to recall the farewell of his wife and mother Ruhuo before his death. I remember Ruhuo asked them such a question. Why are we born stronger than ordinary people? Just such a simple question. Let Pillar of Flame, Rengoku Kyojuro understand how to use his power. How to become a qualified person. Just because you're born with talent doesn't mean you can hurt people or enrich yourself. Strength is used to bear and fulfill the duty of protecting the weak. This is Ruhuo's final farewell before his death. Although Rengoku Mohulang remembered his wife's entrustment, he hated himself for not being able to protect his wife well, so he became increasingly depressed, but today, he woke up at this moment. Rengoku Kyojuro also thought of his mother's final farewell here, and he always kept in mind that to fulfill his mission and honor, he would also dedicate this honor to his mother. Therefore, the father and son did not hesitate at all. Even though they knew that they must die, they continued to launch the final attack on Akaza. Looking at the two burning father and son in front of him, Akaza was completely shocked. A dying person can still burst out with such a strong willpower. He was a little scared. At this moment, he no longer thought about how to persuade the father and son to become ghosts. He wanted to kill them both completely. In an instant, his severed arms quickly recovered, and his recovered body moved instantly, intending to kill the two of them completely. He punched the father and son with a fist, intending to kill the father and son. Finished? Whispering slightly brush. In the darkness, light flashed. The fist that was waving was cut off in an instant. A new figure appeared in front of the father and son. Slender waist, petite body, black hair hanging down to the waist, with emerald green kochu hairpin tied at the tip of the hair. As the wind blows, the kochu hairpin seems to come alive, turning into a dancing kochu. A sudden girl. Kochu Shinobu. What is even more frightening is that the girl is holding a head in her hand, which is the head of 12 Kazuki, Land of the Wind, Ghost of Twins, and Gyutaro. Obviously the girl came here after solving Gyutaro. Kochu Shinobu held Nichiren blades in his hand, and looked at each other quietly. 12 Kazuki, 3 of Winding Strings, Fighting Ghost, Akaza. In the past 3 years, under the guidance of Sumiyu, Kochu Shinobu's strength has been improved beyond imagination. Now, her strength, even compared to the Pillar of Rock, Hamejima Kiyome, is not far behind. Holds Nichiren blades in hand. Looking at the opposite 12 Kazuki, the third of the Winding, the Fighting Ghost, and Akaza, this is a very scary ghost. In the history of the ghost slaying team, there are several pillars, who died in the hands of this ghost. Miss Ninja. Looking at Kochu Shinobu who appeared in front of them. Flame Pillar, Rengoku Kyojuro and Former Pillar of Flame, Rengoku Mojuro are a little worried. They are not Akaza's opponent when they work together as a father and son. Will Kochu Shinobu and people be this ghost's opponent? Heal your injuries first. Here, leave it to me. Kochu Shinobu spoke flatly without looking back. As the wind blows, the girl's black feathers flutter in the wind. Another column. Akaza looked at the young woman whose appearance was still slightly immature, and did not underestimate her because she was young. Instead, her pupils shrank slightly. Because Akaza saw a head held by the girl. 12 Kazuki, Winding Land, Ghost of Twins, Gyutaro. Although, in Akaza's eyes, Gyutaro is not very strong, but after all, 12 Kazuki has a few brushes. But now, this woman is holding her head. If it weren't for the characteristics of the twin ghosts, I'm afraid that Gyutaro is already dead at this moment and can't die anymore. Even so, his complexion was blue and purple, as if he had been poisoned by a strong toxin. I heard that over the years, the ghost killing team has developed a toxin specially designed to deal with ghosts. Could it be that the girl in front of me is the woman who developed the toxin? Thinking of this, Akaza became even more vigilant. Miss Shinobi, this person is very strong, please be careful. Rengoku no Shoro reminded. I know. Kochu Shinobu nodded, a solemn expression appeared on the girl's pretty face. She could feel the powerful aura emanating from Akaza's body. It can be said that the other party was the most powerful enemy she had ever faced. What's more, she just had a battle with Gyutaro, the land of the string, and her body is not in full strength. But at the moment look across at Akaza, she can't retreat. This was the moment she joined the ghost killing squad. She had already made up her mind. Just like her sister, she had already made up her mind. What's more, in the past 3 years, with the help of her husband, her strength has already improved rapidly. It might not be possible to defeat the opponent. Holding the sword in his hand, he calmed down. Breathe, concentrated worm's breath. However, just as he was about to make a move, he suddenly froze. Ahead, a figure appeared again. Like her, she has pink-purple eyes and emerald-green Kochu barrettes with pink edges on both sides of her hair. Wearing a standard ghost killing squad uniform with colorful butterfly pattern feathers on the outside. Elder sister Aaa, seeing the figure that appeared, Kochu Shinobu was stunned. My sister is not fighting alone. My sister is here. Kochu Kanao turned back and looked at, I'm sorry, my sister just solved the ghost that fell off the string, the clone ghost. Hantengu. I came a little late. I didn't expect that ghost Hantengu to be so difficult to deal with. Listening to what Kochu Kanao said to his sister, and looking at the head of Gyutaro in the hands of Shishin, the corners of the mouths of Flame Pillar, Rengoku Kyojuru and Fresh Pillar of Fire, Rengoku Zhenshilong were a little bit bitter. Is the strength of this pair of sisters already this strong? That was the winding up of 12 Kazuki, but it was solved so easily by the sisters. Kochu Shinobu stood with Kochu Kanao, looking at Akaza across the way, while holding the hilt of his sword. Breath of worms, dance of butterflies, teasing. Breath of flowers a 2 types. Mikage May. In an instant, the Kochu sisters shot at the same time. Infinite City, the match between Sumyu and Kibutsuji Muzan continues. Accompanied by the battle, the powerful aftermath of the two became stronger and stronger. But at this moment, the strength of the two is already different. Another whip of Kibutsuji Muzan was cut off with a sword, and he stared at the opponent. You have become much weaker. Kibutsuji Muzan's face was ugly, not because he became weaker, but because the other party became stronger. Deep regret filled his heart. Back then, if he had known that the other party's potential was so great, he would have killed him no matter how desperate he was. But now it's too late. With the constant fighting, his own injuries are also constantly intensifying. Although, with the ghost's immortal body and strong healing ability, for him, these injuries can be recovered in a blink of an eye as long as he is given a little time. But now he has no time at all. The body's ability to heal cannot match the speed of an injury. Even if he exerts all his strength, he is still no match for the opponent. At this moment, Kibutsuji Muzan already had deep fear in his heart, and he could feel that it was going on. Himself will die. For Kibutsuji Muzan, this is definitely a more intense fear than facing Jiguo Yuanyi. Jumpa Aa, for a moment the thought filled Kibutsuji Muzan's mind. Facing the price of being cut off by Sumyu again, Kibutsuji Muzan stepped back slightly, gaining a little breath. You really scare me. It's as scary as the person I faced hundreds of years ago. Sumyu was silent. He naturally knew who Kibutsuji Muzan was talking about. Ji Guoyuanyi, a person who seems to be a living god and Buddha. However, even Ji Guoyuan, who is alive like a god and Buddha, cannot destroy me. You. How could you destroy me, kill me? Kibutsuji Muzan with open arms. Honestly, accept the fate of my existence, even if it is stronger than you, it is impossible to kill me. The body split in an instant, turned into 1800 pieces, and fled in all directions. For him, it doesn't matter if the fragments of his body are destroyed, as long as a fragment escapes, he can use his incomparable recovery ability to completely recover. Even if, at the beginning, Ji Guoyuanyi, who was comparable to the living gods and Buddhas, could only cut off 1500 pieces, and then he could only watch him escape. Ji Guoyuan, who is as strong as the reincarnation of the gods and Buddhas, has never killed me. In this world, who can kill him? And I have surpassed Ji Guoyuanyi, he murmured softly. The horizontal sword is in front of the eyebrows, and the sword makes a slight drum sound. Inhale, breathe. The ghost blood and sword in the body seem to resonate at this moment. Kibutsuji Muzan, who had been reduced to 1800 pieces, sneered. Beyond Jiguo Yuanyi? In this world, no one can surpass that person. Only suddenly, a wave of despair that seemed to touch the soul spread in my heart. In the eyes of Kibutsuji Muzan, the ghost like him raised the sword in his hand. It seemed that at this moment, he saw the sun-like sword that Ji Guoyuan had slashed at him back then. And the man's sword, what's more, it is the first country. Cut out with a sword. In 1 second, 2,000 effective strikes were made. Most of the entire infinite city was torn apart with this sword. How is this possible? In the infinite shock and horror, none of the 1,800 fragments that Kibutsuji Muzan turned into escaped. All were beheaded. Why? Why are there such terrifying ghosts in the world? Kibutsuji Muzan roared unwillingly, but in the end, consciousness could only gradually fade away. The ghosts who have survived for thousands of years in this world, the absolute ruler of ghosts, who call themselves infinitely close to perfect creatures, will also come to an end. Unwilling, annoyed, resentful. All kinds of emotions condensed at the end. In the end, it turned into a look of resentment. I will be in hell, waiting for you, ghost. Sumu. The sound gradually faded away, and finally disappeared completely. The sword like the sun was also retracted at this moment. Put away the sword and put it into the sheath. Kibutsuji Muzan's last grievance keeps ringing in Suemu's mind. I'll watch you from hell. Watching you being betrayed by humans. There was a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Even if he was betrayed, it had nothing to do with you. Not to mention after beheading Kibutsuji Muzan, he himself felt the same. I have already touched a height that this world has never had. It is no longer accepted by this world, he may. To really get out of here, with Kibutsuji Muzan beheaded. A familiar, emotionless mechanical voice sounded. Ding. Congratulations to the host. Kill the ghost ancestor, get rewards, follower. Servant. You can give your own blood to others, and develop into your own disciple of the gods. The host has the right to kill the disciples of the gods. When the blood of the host is given to the servant, its own strength will also decline. The servant will possess a part of the ability of the host. Listening to the voice from the system, Sumu was taken aback for a moment. He obtained almost the same ability as Kibutsuji Muzan. The ability to turn humans into ghosts. Is this making him the new Kibutsuji Muzan? He raised his head and looked at the vast night, so dark, with a slight sneer at the corner of his mouth. This was not his original intention. Accompanied by Suemu's 2,000 effective slashes in 1 second, not only was Kibutsuji Muzan completely beheaded, he ceased to exist. Even the infinite city controlled by Nakime, the ghost of the city, was completely broken at this moment. An infinite city that once stretched infinitely and piled up infinitely. It was also completely broken at this moment. The members of the ghost killing squad, who were divided into 4 places by the infinite city, also came into view at this moment. As Kibutsuji Muzan was beheaded, all the ghosts in this world, at this moment, the curse that the body possessed from blood also dissipated at this moment. Breaking through the blood-derived shackles means that the ghosts of this world are no longer bound by Kibutsuji Muzan. His eyes recovered from his thoughts, he raised his head and looked around. Everything in front of you falls into view. And with Kibutsuji Muzan, the world's first Oni was beheaded by him, and everyone, including the Ona's eyes, fell on him. Winding one. Ghost of the sword, Kokoshibu unconsciously held the sword, feeling the long-lost excitement in his heart. Ever since he lost the battle with Ji Guoyuan, his biggest regret in this life is that he will never be able to defeat Ji Guoyuan. But now, there is an opportunity. Kibutsuji Muzan, who had never been beheaded by Ji Guoyuan, was beheaded by Sumu at this moment. It proves that this person is better than Ji Guoyuan chief. If he defeats the opponent, it also means that he will never win back the defeat in his life, and he will never have the chance to beat Ji Guoyuan Yi. Now, there is hope. Opportunity arose. While Kokoshibu was watching him, Suemu's eyes also fell on him. Tall figure, wearing a long black gown, with 6 open eyes. 12 Kazuki, one of the top strings, was once the strongest subordinate of Kibutsuji Muzan. He is also the living person who is worthy of gods and Buddhas, and the big brother of Ji Guoyuan Yi. He could feel Kokoshibu's strong will to fight surging inside him. As Kokoshibu who swears not to lose to anyone other than Sui Kunichi? Looking at each other, he murmured slightly. Feeling the powerful aura emanating from the opponent, Kokoshibu's strength is indeed very strong, and even his combat power may be stronger than Kibutsuji Muzan's. If it is not subject to the curse of Kibutsuji Muzan's blood, Kokoshibu may not be weaker than Kibutsuji Muzan. I feel the breath of Big Brother in you. Kokoshibu stared at Sumu with 6 scarlet eyes, and his voice was hoarse. Sumu was silent. Holder of sun's breath. Ji Guoyuan Yi's breath. He used to be the ceiling of this world's combat power. But not anymore. At the same moment, several extremely embarrassed figures emerged from the rubble underground. Rock Pillar, Hamejima Kiyome, Wind Pillar, Shinazugawa Sanemi. Shaju, Tokito Muichiru. The current condition of the 3 is not good, and their bodies have been injured in many places. Just now, The three of them worked together to face 12 Kazuki's one of the top strings, Black Death, but the result was a disastrous defeat. Ahem. Wind Pillar, Shinazugawa Sanemi couldn't help coughing, spitting out bright red blood. He stared at Sumiyu and Hei, who were confronting each other. Like Shinazugawa Sanemi, Kaizu mourns, Xingming also has a complex look. It can be felt that the ghost ancestor, Kibutsuji Muzan, completely disappeared and was beheaded by Sumiyu. It also means a ghost more powerful than Kibutsuji Muzan is born. Looking at Sumiyu, everyone's eyes are slightly complicated, although Sumiyu is also a member of the ghost killing team, and is the ghost pillar of the ghost killing team. But humans and ghosts do not coexist after all. Rock Pillar, Hamejima Kiyome, Wind Pillar, Shinazugawa Sanemi, and Shaju, Tokito Muichiru all looked at Sumiyu with complicated expressions. When Kibutsuji Muzan, the ancestor of Oni, died, it was such an exciting thing, but a more powerful Oni than Kibutsuji Muzan was born at the same time. Ghosts and humans are different creatures after all. However, such complex emotions only briefly came to mind, and they couldn't help but think about Suemyu's situation in these years. Sumiyu not the same as ghosts like Kibutsuji Muzan. Perhaps humans and ghosts are not incompatible. Not necessarily impossible to try. Thinking of this, Rock Pillar, Hamejima Kiyome couldn't help clasping his hands together and said, Amitabha Buddha. Just as he was about to speak, Su already set his eyes on Hei Sequan. 12 Kazuki, the first of the strings, the ghost of the sword. Black Death, the big brother of Ji Guoyuan. Owner of Moon's Breath. I will not lose to anyone other than Ji Guoyuan. Kokoshibu raised his head, his 6 eyes stared at Sumiyu. The scarlet eyes were full of coldness. Maybe I'm sorry. Sumiyu shook her head. It has to be said that, as the big brother of Ji Guoyuan, even though Kokoshibu does not have the talent of Ji Guoyuan, which is comparable to the living gods and Buddhas, but he has worked hard enough, even if the achievements of his hard work are not as good as those of the chosen one. In front of his younger brother, he is like an old man walking like a turtle, there is no comparison. But after becoming a ghost, life extends infinitely. For hundreds of years, he has never stopped working hard to improve. Even if the tortoise and the hare are in a race, as long as the rabbit stops being careless, the tortoise may not be able to beat the rabbit, not to mention that the rabbit has been resting for hundreds of years. It's just a pity that Ji Guoyuan is dead, otherwise, he might be able to beat his younger brother. Slowly, he raised the knife in his hand. Kokoshibu's sword is very special and his favorite weapon. This weapon is made from his own blood and flesh. The reason why he is called the sword ghost, an unknown currency, this weapon also has a lot to do with it. This weapon, which is made of his own flesh and blood, fits him infinitely, allowing him to almost reach a resonance with the sword. As far as the naked eye can see, the blade, handle, and handle are all covered with eyes. As Kokoshibu raised the blade with the palm of his hand, countless moonblades seemed to be faintly produced. The size and length of the moonblades would change from time to time, and there was no fixed shape. Breathe, breath of the moon. He can't be as dazzling as the sun like his younger brother, but his light can also illuminate the darkness. If the younger brother is the king of the day, then he is the emperor of the night. Breath of the Muna, one type Dark Muna Night Palace. A slight murmur. Kokoshibu draws the sword. An IAI slash that was so fast that the blade could not be seen clearly. With the slash, many round moonblades will be left on the trajectory. Just now, he used this move to easily cut off the left arm of Shaju, Tokito Muichiru. It's just that this Juhei slash is not close enough. The scabbard around Suemyu's waist trembled slightly. It came out of the sheath automatically. Blocked the sword for him. Sumiyu himself has no intention of blocking, and the sword defends against the enemy entirely on its own. Seeing this scene, Kokoshibu couldn't help shrinking his eyes. The reason why he is a sword ghost is that he is infinitely compatible with the ghost blade forged by his own flesh and blood. Able to resonate with its own sword. However, it has never been possible to let the sword defend itself against the enemy. In any case, the sword is a dead thing after all. But apparently, in Suemyu's hands, the sword seemed to come alive. Taking a deep breath, he suppressed the shock in his heart. Knowing that the person in front of him can kill Kibutsuji Muzan, Ji Guoyuan is not worse than his younger brother. If he doesn't have some skills, how can it be possible? It is too much for granted that I try to force the other party because I am already in the confinement breath. One type. That being the case, also no longer try. Thinking like this, doing like this, raised the blade. At this moment, the full moon in the sky seemed to echo it, and seemed to listen to the call of the black dead corner. Following the swing of Simo's sword, it seemed that the sword of the whole moon fell down. Breath of the Muna 16 shaped moonboa lonely moon. It fell from the sky, accompanied by countless giant wind blades, and at the same time, countless moon blades fell. These things tore through the air, surged, and slashed towards Sumyu. He was about to kill Sumyu with one blow. In the distance, Yenju, Hamejima Kiyome, Wind Column, Shinazugawa Sanemi, and Shaju, Tokito Muichiru were all shocked when they saw this scene. It turned out that Kokoshibu and they had never really used their full strength from the beginning to the end. At the same moment, Sumyu stretched out his hand, and the sword was held in his hand like a psychic. Next second, a stream of light rose into the sky. All the wind blades and all the moon blades seemed to disappear under the stream of light soaring into the sky. Even the moon on that day, at this moment, seemed to be afraid, hiding behind the dark clouds, not daring to show up again. Kokoshibu stared blankly at the sword. An unremarkable sword, its power is even stronger than the sword he slashed with Ji Guoyuan back then. At the moment when Kokoshibu lost his mind, the streamer had already reached Hei Sequan's neck. Faster than expected. The sharp, seemingly painless sword sliced AA open from the neck. Am I still defeated after all? Looking at the body that kept moving away, Kokoshibu murmured as he threw his head away. Yes. Sumyu smiled flatly. But Kokoshibu smiled, I'm afraid not yet. He has already broken through the limit of ghost. Even if his head is beheaded by Nichiren blades, he can quickly recover from the wound. In other words, Nichiren blades cannot kill him. Any attack is meaningless to me, I won't lose a second time. Kokoshibu murmured as his neck was sliced open by the blade and his head was thrown flying. However, as far as I am concerned, the limit of ghost you broke through is of no use to me. Sumyu closes the sword sheath at this moment. Kokoshibu also felt that a sun-like energy was constantly invading his body. Obviously, I have broken through the limit of ghost. Even if Nichiren blades cut off the head, I will not die. But now no matter the body's still head. They gradually turned into black smoke. No longer exist in this world. Along with Kokoshibu's beheading, the familiar, emotionless mechanical voice also sounded in Suemyu's mind. Sumyu ignored it, but turned her head, looking at rock pillar Hamejima Kiyome, wind pillar Shinazugawa Sanemi, and Sha pillar Tokito Muichiru. At this moment, these pillars of the ghost-killing team were extremely shocked, and looked at themselves incomparably complicated. Amitabha. Yenjua Hamejima Kiyome clasped his hands together, trying to say what he hadn't said before. Humans and ghosts are actually not necessarily the same. Sumyu has turned around the figure stepped into the darkness. Ding. Congratulations to the host, kill one of the evil spirits, and get the reward, Breath of the Moon. Breath of the Moon. Kokyu, which is directly derived from Breath of the Beginning and Breath of the Sun, includes 16 types in total. A mechanical and emotionless voice echoed in Suemyu's mind, letting him know the ability he obtained by beheading 12 Kazuki, one of the Winding Strings, Ghost of the Sword, and Kokoshibu. To be honest, he has already mastered the Breath of the Sun, and Breath of the Moon is already very tasteless to him. It belongs to the feeling that it is tasteless to eat and it is a pity to discard it. However, it would be nice to have one more breath and one more ability. This was the thought that came to Suemyu's mind before the figure stepped into the darkness. With the death of Kibutsuji Muzan, Akaza was also panicked. However, Kochu Shinobu and Kochu Kanae, who were fighting against them, seized such an opportunity in an instant. Almost in an instant, a sword slashed across. Akaza's head was directly chopped off by Kanae Nichiren blades. Kala seeing Akaza's head thrown flying, Kochu Shinobu and Kochu Kanae also sheathed their swords and let out a sigh of relief. Although the fighting time is not long, the risk is extremely high. As the third of the Akaza is really powerful. Even if they are sisters, they will fight very hard under their strong fighting spirit. However, it finally killed the other party. Kochu Shinobu exhaled lightly, looked at Akaza's head thrown away, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and his black hair fluttered with the wind. However, immediately, the eyes of both of them changed. The Akaza who was beheaded by her sister Nichiren blades did not die, but took advantage of the moment when the two of them lost their minds. The body quickly ran in front of the head, and the thrown head quickly connected to the body. The wounded area heals quickly and is fully restored again. It seems that there is no injury at all. There was no sign of injury at all. How is this possible? Both Kochu Shinobu and Kochu Kanae were shocked. From the moment they joined the ghost-killing team, they understood a truth. There are two kinds of things that can kill ghosts. One is to be irradiated by the sun, and the other is to chop with Nichiren blades. Dropping the ghost's head, of course, does not count the wisteria toxin, which was developed by Kochu Shinobu. But now, Akaza, whose head was chopped off by his sister, is not dead. Akaza also touched his neck with his hands at this moment, looking at the two girls in front of him, full of disappointment. If he had not already broken through the limit of ghosts, he would not have died even if he was beheaded by Nichiren blades. If not, he might have died in the hands of the sisters just now. Anger, annoyance, filled Akaza's heart. I'm going to tear you apart. Akaza's scarlet eyes stared at the pair of Kochu sisters. If he hadn't sworn not to eat women, he would have eaten the pair of sisters. I'm afraid you don't have this chance. A calm voice sounded. Da da da. A. In the darkness, the sound of footsteps came out so clearly. A figure came out slowly. Forbearance, Gojong. Su Mu looked at the Kochu sisters with a smile and called out their names. It's a coincidence that I haven't dealt with the other party yet. Kochu Shinobu seemed a little dissatisfied, but his voice was full of intimacy. The sword that Ben drew again, with the arrival of Su Mu, was put away. Now that the husband has arrived, there is no chance for her to make a move. Mu, please be careful. This ghost is a bit strong. Even if you cut through the head with Nichiren blades, you won't die. Kochu Kanao couldn't help reminding. No matter how strong it is, can it be as strong as Kibutsuji Muzan and Kokoshibu? Su Mu spoke softly. The Kochu sisters couldn't help being surprised, and then couldn't help but smile. Such a difficult ghost has been solved. Sure enough, Doing is the most difficult ghost in the world. Kochu Shinobu was joking. Su Mu smiled, and naturally walked in front of the Kochu sisters, looking at Akaza on the opposite side. 12 Kazuki, the third of the winding, the fighting ghost. Akaza. When he was still a human, Akaza chose to keep exercising to make himself stronger in order to protect his valued family and lover. After becoming a ghost, because of the loss of all memory, only the obsession to become stronger is left in my heart. In order to make himself stronger, the kennel only likes to fight with the strong. As a ghost, the kennel never kills or eats women because of the strong man's creed, and he will only choose when he is extremely hungry. Eat human. Therefore, Akaza and Doma, who only loves to eat people, especially women, can be regarded as two extremes, and the relationship between the two is naturally quite bad. You go to hell too. Looking at each other, Su Mu said lightly. Akaza's face is indifferent, but the fighting spirit in his heart is raging, even though he knows that Kokoshibu and Muzan may have died in the hands of this ghost. But there is no sense of fear. Instead, a strong will to fight emerged. Taking a deep breath, Akaza's body bent slightly, his eyes were focused at this moment. I'm afraid, it's not what you want. Boom. His body bounced up like a cannonball, and he rushed towards Su Mu. He was in the air, but his punch shot out. Destroying kill a sent final forma Qingyan chaotic remnant light. Belonging to his strongest punch. In an instant, with Akaza as the center, compass needles gathered one after another, and there were hundreds of them. With one punch, hundreds of needles go with him, and each needle sends hundreds of missiles in an instant. The speed is fast and the power is huge. Looking at all this, Su Mu's face was expressionless. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, rest in peace. A slight sound came out. Su Mu's hand was pressed on the hilt of the sword at this moment. The blade was unsheathed, and the streamer flowed between the palms. The next moment, he left with a sword. Kill everything. Kennel seat this 12 Kazuki, the third of the winding, the ghost of fighting. Almost without any ability to resist, Akaza disappeared into this world with his strongest punch. With his current strength, even Kokoshibu is no match for him, so how can Akaza make waves? With the death of Akaza, the death of 12 Kazuki, the third of the series, the era of ghosts is completely over. This era it is a complete return to the era of human beings. Even with 12 Kazuki still alive, for example. Winding 5, Pot Ghost, Gyoko Winding Land, Ghost of Thunder, Hill. And ordinary ghosts that still exist in this world. These are no longer necessary for him to take action, and they can be left to the people who come later. These are all handed over to the Ghost Killing Squad. Tanjiro, Nezuko, these new members of the Ghost Slayer Squad, they will uphold the will of the Ghost Slayer Squad very well. And he the devil look up. A red sun in the east slowly rose and began to dispel the darkness of this world. The era of man has ushered in, and he the devil. He will also embark on a new journey. His strength has already surpassed the ceiling of this world, and he is rejected by this world. The era of ghosts is over. The darkness dissipated, and the earth ushered in light. Kochu House. A group of girls gathered together. Tsuyuri Kanawa Mikomo Kochu Shinobu. Kochu Kanae Tomioka Itsuko, Tomioka Gyu's older sister, some friends may have forgotten. Tamayo Kanroji Mitsuri Kamado Nezuko. Everyone's eyes fell on the young man, with deep reluctance in their eyes. Although it is not stated, everyone knows, Mu might really be leaving. Su Mu stood there, although she was not from this world at the beginning, but unknowingly, she has been deeply entangled with this world, and has formed a relationship with a group of girls. He wants to stay, but I can feel that I am becoming more and more incompatible with this world, that I will be excluded by this world. Somewhere, there is an intuition that only when one's own strength reaches a higher level and can resist the repelling force of this world, can one return here again. Just want to get to that level. How long will it take? Have these girls been waiting that long? Except for the ghost Tamayo, how long can the others live? Life is short, and after 100 years, it will be turned into a piece of Lois. When the time comes, I will come back again in 2002, and there will be no familiar people anymore. At that time, is there any need to return? At this moment, a kind of repulsive force that cannot be tolerated in this world has become deeper and deeper. When his strength breaks through the ceiling of this world, it already means that he has broken through the rules of this world and is rejected by this world. Under the warm sunlight, the ghost's horn, which he could clearly distinguish before, gradually began to retract as the sunlight radiated, and finally, it completely merged into the hair. Never to be seen again. Husband. Daughter, are you leaving? Tsuyuri Kanao finally couldn't hold back his mouth. For Tsuyuri Kanao, Su-Mu is his heaven. From the moment she was redeemed by Su-Mu, she has been a vine attached to Su-Mu, the big kernel. Lives by drawing vines from great trees. But now, this big tree that she used to rely on so much is about to leave, and she has no support, no sky. Losing Su-Mu, for Tsuyuri Kanao, is unacceptable. The other girls didn't speak, but there was mist in their eyes. Between them and Su-Mu, fetters have already been formed. An unbreakable bond. Can't let go of the fetters. Su-Mu was silent. Although she didn't say anything to them about leaving, she seemed to have a tacit understanding. He and them had formed a bond. Only the self and the world have become more and more exclusive. I'm afraid, with my own power, I'm almost unable to fight against the power of this world, and I'm about to be repelled and left. Silence also powerless. Even though the strength has surpassed the ceiling of this world, it is still impossible for one person to fight against the power of the whole world. His strength is not enough to fight the world. Very ashamed. I'm sorry. Maybe. Had to be away for a long time. For a long time, he didn't know, but he only knew that when he came again, his own strength needed to be able to resist the strength of this world with one person's strength. Even if he is rejected by this world, he can still stay with his strong strength. I will wait. Tsuyuri Kanao whispered. We are all willing to wait. Su-Mu was silent. It may be a long wait. His voice was hoarse. Then wait a long time. Whispering, Kanao said calmly, this is something that he already knew in his heart, and it may have to wait until the day when he can't see it. But also wait. Su-Mu was silent, and finally, gently cut her finger with a knife. Dark red blood dripped to the ground. After killing Kibutsuji Muzan, he gained the ability Servant. You can give your own blood to others, and develop into your own disciple of the gods. The host has the right to kill the disciples of the gods. When the blood of the host is given to the servant, its own strength will also decline. The servant will possess a part of the ability of the host. I'll definitely see you. He looked at everyone seriously and stretched out his finger. Tsuyuri Kanao stepped forward, sucked his finger gently, and the bright red blood was sucked in. Accompanied by the sucking of blood, the girl's fair face was flushed with blush. Then Makomo Kochu Shinobu Kochu Kanae. Tomioka Etsuko Tamayo Kanroji Mitsuri. Kamado Nezuko Du, stepped forward and sucked Su-Mu's blood. As everyone absorbed his blood, Su-Mu also felt that his connection with everyone was getting deeper and deeper. It seems that with a single thought, I have the right to life and death. It means that with one thought, what you want to do, as long as you really order it, the other party will not have room to resist. But at the same time, with the inhalation of blood, his own strength is also rapidly declining. Even down, it can no longer be integrated into this world. The power of the world has noticed him, let alone accommodate him, but he is already pleased, and distributes his abilities to the girls. Their lives are already endless. Maybe I really have to leave. Su-Mu looked at everyone. Look at the delicate girls in front of you. I will work hard to come back. He looked at everyone and said seriously, one day, I will come back again. The mist filled the eyes, and the beautiful eyelashes were stained with crystal teardrops. I'll wait. Waiting forever. Just don't make us wait too long. A woman without a man is like a flower without rain, it will wither. Su-Mu couldn't hear the last words, and at some point in the sky, an empty black hole opened and sucked him away. No matter how hard you try, you can't change the situation. Finally get out of this world. Seeing that the person who was standing just now completely disappeared in everyone's face was depressed. But look up, look at the sky. We'll be back, won't you? Tsuyuri Kanao looked at the older sisters. That day will come. I'm looking forward to that day. Tsuyuri Kanao clenched her small fist and said firmly, I will wait for that day to come. At that time, little Tsuyuri Kanao will definitely look even better, and the one who is fascinated by her husband will never choose to leave again. Everyone smiled silently, but there was firmness in their eyes. That day it won't be long. If it doesn't work. Everyone looked at each other. It's really not possible. Let's work together to find him back. You can't let the flowers and plants outside harm your husband. After all, Mew likes beautiful girls the most. In case he is confused by the beautiful girls outside, he won't go home. Then find him and break his leg.